The story begins with the protagonist Kim Kibong, who was working at his part-time job. He's not very happy with his daily routine. He then received a message from his mother asking him to come and visit her and also to bring some fried chicken. Kibong promised to get her some chicken, but suddenly he heard a loud noise outside. When he went out to look, he saw monsters destroying the city. He tried to run away, but he fell down. He thought he tripped, but then he noticed that his legs were no longer attached to his body. He then saw a monster behind him, and he assumed that he was attacked. As he lost consciousness, he saw a message pop up that read, "Activating the Human Awakening Program and initiating awakening test." After losing consciousness, Kim Kibong found himself in a room and was surprised to see that his injuries were gone. A message appeared, greeting him and welcoming him to the awakening area. He realized that the place he was in resembled a computer program. Soon after, another message popped up, initiating the awakening test. Suddenly, a monster appeared, and the system gave him a mission to attack the test monster. Kim Kibong became frustrated as he found the quest to be impossible. The monster attacked him and killed him. A message appeared stating that he failed the awakening quest and his body would be regenerated. After his body was regenerated, he was disgusted to see his previous corpse and threw up. When the monster appeared again, he panicked and tried to run, but it killed him once more. He respawned, confused and frustrated about how to defeat the monster. The system explained that the test monster was a transcendent existence and was impossible to kill according to the program. Kibong asked who was communicating with him, where he was, and why he was brought there. The system replied that he is currently in the awakening test area, a specially designed area meant to be fair for testing purposes. The system explained that humans have the potential for awakening, and once the player awakens their abilities and lands a hit on the test monster, the test will end and they will be sent back to reality. The system also reassured the player that there was no need to worry about dying during the test, as his body would be regenerated no matter how many times he died. As Kibong surveyed the corpses surrounding him, he felt compelled to trust the system's words despite his doubts. He realized that he had no choice but to accept his situation or continue dying in agony. Just then, the monster attacked, but Kibong managed to dodge the attack. Suddenly, a message appeared, informing him that he had successfully awakened and acquired a skill and ability called body enhancement. Kibong decided to attack the monster in order to complete the quest, as it was the only course of action available to him. As he landed the blow, a message appeared congratulating him on completing the awakening test. As Kibong shouted in victory, he was met with disappointment as multiple error messages appeared, including one indicating that he was unable to leave the test area due to an unknown error. Suddenly, the awakening test recommenced and the monster reappeared, catching Kibong off guard and resulting in his death. Kibong regenerated and shouted in frustration, and he was then killed again. He compared the experience to that of a game, noting that the unknown error was similar to a bug. He felt as though he was a game character, unable to progress due to the bug and stuck in the space. Following Kibong's death, he was recreated, only to suffer the same fate once more. This cycle repeated itself for weeks, then months, and eventually, a year passed by. During this time, Kibong's mind began to deteriorate. Despite his body being regenerated, his mind was slowly being worn away, leaving him in a state of despair. A message then appeared, informing that his health stat had increased due to continuous attacks on his body, and the backup data would be adjusted. Kibong, however, was not interested and asked if the error had been adjusted. The system replied that the error had not been fixed and he could not escape the place forever. Kibong was repeatedly killed and regenerated over the course of 2, 3, and eventually 4 years. He had tried running away and resisting the test monster, which led to a significant increase in his stats. However, Kibong eventually gave up fighting as he remembered the words from the first day. After 10 years, he asked the system about the state of the world outside. The system replied that not much had changed, and that time in this dimension passed 300 times faster than in his world, with 10 years here only amounting to 12 days in his own world. Kibong remembered his mother's message and thought that he needed to buy her some chicken. He was then killed again by the monster. After 500 years of being killed and regenerated, Kibong sat lifelessly, with his memories fading away. He could hardly recall his family, friends, or even his own identity, and was left with a single question that consumed his thoughts. Why? As Kibong repeated the question of why, the test monster attacked him once again. However, this time he easily deflected the monster's attack, fueled by his rage. Despite the idea of fairness and the promise of awakening, Kibong didn't care about any of that. His only concern was why he was the only one with this error. All he had ever wanted was to live a life filled with excitement and enjoyment, and he directed all his anger and fury towards the test monster. 10 years had passed since humanity's awakening day. A crack appeared in the sky. An error message states that the server is experiencing significant damage due to the destruction of its firewall. After breaking through the crack with his fists, Kibong emerged as the test monster inside had already perished. Kibong's awakening test lasted for 3,000 years, during which he was able to reach the maximum level for all of his stats. The system encountered an error and could not connect to the main system. It initiated offline self-synchronization. Kibong, who had been thinking about returning to reality for 3,000 years, asked the system where his mother was located. However, the system was unable to locate her, as the function was not available in offline mode. Kibong sighed and decided to go home for now. Kibong arrived at his house but was shocked to see that it was now in ruins. 2 soldiers arrived and told him that the area was now restricted to civilians and advised him to go to a safe zone. Curious, Kibong asked the soldiers what had happened to his neighborhood. One of the soldiers replied in a surprised tone, asking if Kibong had been living under a rock, and explained that it was due to the dungeon break that happened 10 years ago. Kibong thought that the cause of the ruins might have been related to the monsters he saw before entering the test. He asked the soldier about the fate of the people who lived in the buildings. The soldier replied that everyone had died, leaving Kibong in shock. However, the soldier added that the residents who were outside their homes at the time of the incident were evacuated to a safe zone by the government. The soldier suggested that Kibong should head there if he was looking for someone. Kibong grabbed the soldier and inquired about the location, to which the soldier responded that it was situated in Moontown, B Zone. Kibong wasted no time and hurried to the location. Later, the 2 soldiers overheard through the radio that a dungeon break had been detected, and it was estimated to be in the migrant community sector of B Zone's Moontown. In the migrant community sector, preparations were underway for a dungeon break as soldiers and Lieutenant Colonel Oh Hyein-kyan arrived on the scene. Hyein-kyan ordered his troops to secure the area and request reinforcements as they could not stop the break on their own. He expressed frustration that the forces from the guild were running late, believing they were being lazy and using the situation to ask for more funds. First Lieutenant Lee Jun asked for guidance on what to do, and Hyein-kyan ordered them to build a defense line and deal with small monsters first, intercepting the medium and large class monsters when reinforcements arrived. Jun expressed concern about civilian casualties, but Hyein-kyan believed that if the monsters escaped to other areas, everyone would be at risk. Kibong arrived in the area and was surprised to see soldiers present. He asked the system what was happening and learned that a dungeon break was about to occur in B Zone in 3 minutes. Remembering what happened during the last break, Kibong feared for his mother's safety and tried to enter the area. However, soldiers stopped him and informed him of the imminent danger, ordering him to head to a safe zone. The soldiers who stopped Kibong were overwhelmed by his powerful aura and fell to the ground. Hyein-kyan witnessed this and ordered his troops to stop Kibong. The soldiers then surrounded Kibong at gunpoint, but he used his power to force them to step aside. Jun scolded the soldiers for allowing a civilian to enter the area, but one soldier recognized Kibong as a player. The crack in the sky signaled the beginning of the dungeon break as monsters started pouring out, causing the soldiers to lose hope. Jun followed Kibong as he walked, and the system informed him that it was a 5-star ranked dungeon break. Kibong was furious at the thought of the dungeons and monsters. As a monster attacked him, Kibong swiftly killed it, then caught another monster's tentacles and slammed it to the ground before finishing it off by stomping on its head. More monsters kept appearing, but Kibong continued to destroy them. Meanwhile, Jun searched for him and found Kibong surrounded by a pile of monster corpses, stunned that he single-handedly stopped a 5-star dungeon break. The boss monster emerged, and upon seeing its minions slain, it grew furious. The system informed Kibong that the dungeon break would only end once it was defeated. Kibong bravely advanced towards the monster, while Jun, overcome with fear, fell to her knees. However, she quickly noticed the survivors and urged them to flee to safety. As the civilians ran, a little girl stumbled and fell, prompting a nearby monster to attack her and her mother. Fortunately, Kibong arrived and rescued them. Afterward, Kibong commanded the system to locate his mother, but after some time, the system was unable to find her. Kibong recalled his family, whom he had thought of repeatedly for 3,000 years to avoid forgetting them. However, now his memories of them were becoming hazy. The boss launched an assault, unleashing a barrage of projectiles at Kibong. In response, Kibong activated his body enhancement skill, allowing him to defuse the attacks and charge towards the boss. He recalled his mother's messages as he deflected more incoming projectiles, impressing June with his abilities as he redirected the boss's attacks away from the nearby town. Suddenly, the boss fired a powerful beam, but Kibong met it head-on with a punch that destroyed the boss. June was stunned by Kibong's incredible feat. He deactivated his skill. Just then, someone called out Kibong's name, causing him to turn around. Overcome with emotions that had been suppressed for the past 3,000 years, Kibong felt as if a dam had burst inside him, unleashing a flood of feelings. His mother appeared before him, and he rushed towards her, embracing her tightly as they both wept. His mother cried out, asking where he had been, while Kibong apologized for not being able to bring her any chicken. However, their reunion was abruptly interrupted when a surviving monster attacked Kibong's mother. Kibong thought about how he became stronger by standing atop his corpses. Despite his powerful body, he was unable to protect the person he loved the most. As June defeated the monster, Kibong tended to his mother, who consoled him and expressed her affection towards him before eventually losing consciousness. Overwhelmed with grief, Kibong let out a mournful cry. Hyong Kyan and June of the Seoul Defense Force discussed Kibong's recent dungeon clearing accomplishments, having destroyed all dungeons in the area over the past month. Despite this feat, the guilds showed dissatisfaction, and Hyong Kyan believed they would take action soon. To prevent Kibong from losing control, Hyong Kyan ordered June to bring him in. Kibong continued his monster-killing rampage, easily defeating a horde of monsters after activating his body enhancement. Following the battle, June introduced herself and revealed they had met before, but the timing wasn't right for a proper greeting. June empathized with Kibong's desire to destroy all the monsters and dungeons, but explained that it was ultimately meaningless as they would reappear over time. Kibong questioned whether he should do nothing after enduring 3,000 years of agony, including his body breaking apart and turning to dust, just to return to his family. He expressed frustration that all his efforts were in vain and questioned if June was suggesting he should simply endure it all again. After their conversation, Kibong walked away, but Yoon offered to help him with his revenge and destroy the monsters and dungeons. She invited him to come with her. 6 months later, Kibong visited his unconscious mother, informing her that he had become a high-ranking public official, which meant he wouldn't be able to visit her, often due to his busy schedule. Despite this, he promised to return and asked his mother not to be too disappointed. Kibong came out of the room and was greeted by the officers as he prepared to head to the dungeons. At a bar, a man drank while listening to news of the government ending the Shield Guild's defense service in the metropolitan area. Suddenly, an unknown man approached and identified the drinking man as Captain Beat Cheel of the scout team. The unknown mentioned a source of recent uproar who was causing trouble for their business. Beat Cheel asked if he should eliminate him, but the unknown man instructed him to recruit him instead, treating him like a team captain. Beat Cheel stood up and left, acknowledging the instructions. Kibong's group entered a 5-star class dungeon named Monstrous Bird Nest, and one of the members informed Kibong that this was the last dungeon scheduled to break that month. Kibong ordered the group to be on standby and left to confront the monsters. He requested the system to locate the boss, and as it scanned, he killed the surrounding monsters. The scan was completed, and the system informed him of the boss's location. Kibong immediately headed there and came face to face with the boss called Albatross. Kibong's team was observing his battle with the boss monster Albatross in the 5-star class dungeon Monstrous Bird Nest. The members estimated that Kibong would soon emerge victorious. As they prepared to move to collect the spirit stones from the monsters, the dungeon entrance suddenly opened, and they were attacked by an unknown person who threw a dagger at the man, followed by another attack, knocking down the vice captain. Beat Cheel, who had arrived with the attackers, asked the team which of them was Kim Kibong. Meanwhile, Kibong was still fighting the boss monster Albatross. Kibong was hit by the boss's fiery breath, causing an explosion that Beat Cheel felt from a distance. He realized that Kibong was not with the rest of the team and made the decision to attack and kill Kibong's team in order to draw him out. Kibong acquired attribute resistance from the attack and emerged unharmed. He then attacked, defeating the boss and causing a black sphere to drop from its corpse. He asked the system what the sphere was. The system identified it as a daystone but was unable to provide further information due to being offline. Suddenly, the system alerted him of a fight occurring at the dungeon entrance. Beat Cheel and his team attacked Kibong's group, beating them down. After learning that Kibong had defeated the dungeon boss, Beat Cheel realized that the explosion he heard earlier was Kibong fighting the monster. As they were leaving to find Kibong, Kibong suddenly appeared behind them, causing them to be surprised. Kibong approached Beat Cheel's group, who introduced himself, but then stopped when he felt Kibong's powerful aura, causing him to tremble. Kibong asked if Beat Cheel's group was from the Shield Guild. The people behind Beat Cheel felt disrespected by Kibong's question, but Beat Cheel told them to be quiet. Beat Cheel remembered the order to recruit and treat Kibong as a team captain and cursed at the thought of such a low rank for someone like Kibong. He realized that they needed to make Kibong their ally, even if it meant giving up an executive position. Beat Cheel offered Kim Kibong to join the Shield Guild, emphasizing their strength as the strongest guild in South Korea and promising to grant him any wish he desires. Beat Cheel's words were sincere and honest. The position of a team captain in a large guild could earn a salary of at least 3 billion won. They had immense power and influence, making it nearly impossible for any country to challenge them. One of Kibong's team members overheard Beat Cheel's offer and realized that their squad would be useless without Kibong. Being scouted by a large guild was a turning point in a player's life, and it was an offer that no one would refuse. Recalling what happened to his mother, Kibong asked if the Shield Guild was responsible for the defense of the capital city, which also included Moontown. Beat Cheel confirmed. However, before he could finish his words, Kibong attacked and sent him flying, leaving him unconscious in front of his team. The rest of Beat Cheel's team prepared to attack, but Kibong made it clear that it was not about personal feelings, but rather payback for attacking his team. The Shield Guild is the strongest and most prominent guild in South Korea, responsible for protecting the capital area where high-ranked dungeons are located. With over 5,000 members, including the 3S-ranked players of South Korea, they are considered the country's shield. Kibong attacked the Shield Guild members and easily defeated them one by one, even using one of them as a weapon. Beat Cheel watched in awe as Kibong continued his rampage, realizing that Kibong was incredibly powerful and seemed indifferent to their attack. Beat Cheel also noted that he had brought the best members of his team, but they were still no match for Kibong. Beat Cheel's team was being treated for their injuries in the Shield Guild's building, with some in critical condition. The director of the Shield Guild arrived and requested to speak to Beat Cheel alone. After injecting him with something to wake him up, the director asked him to explain what happened. Beat Cheel revealed that they were defeated by Kim Kibong, whose power was immeasurable. The director then asked if Kibong could match their guildmaster. Beat Cheel was unable to make a decision as both Kibong and the guildmaster were transcendent beings that were beyond his reach. When asked by the director if they could recruit Kim Kibong, he informed the director that Kibong's hostility towards them was evident and they could not recruit him. The director got up and left, deciding that Kibong needed to be eliminated before other guilds could recruit him. He then contacted someone and issued a kill order to the vice master. He thought that if they can't have him, they must eliminate him, so he won't stand in their way. Kibong was at Abyssal Beach, a 4-star dungeon, hunting monsters when he killed a whale-like creature. He then asked the system to provide more information about the Daystone, but the system responded that it was impossible due to being in offline mode. Frustrated, Kibong sighed. However, the system then revealed that it could absorb the Daystone and explained the benefits of doing so, which included a system upgrade and access to the source of the dungeons. Kibong agreed to let the system absorb the Daystone. In the meantime, a person dressed in unusual attire was walking and drew attention from people around him. He approached a woman and showed her a poorly drawn picture, asking if she had seen the person in it. The woman was confused by the drawing and said she hadn't seen the person, then walked away. However, the person felt the system absorbing the Daystone and was relieved to have found where Kibong was. After absorbing the Daystone, Kibong's system gained 2 new functions: human analysis and emotion expression. The system explained that human analysis allows it to gather detailed information about a person, and if the target is a player, it can view their stats. Kibong found this interesting and asked about the emotion expression function. The system then showed an emoticon reaction, making him speechless. Kibong landed on a rooftop and asked the system to locate the nearest bus stop for him to return to the army. The system asked why he didn't fly to the location, which surprised Kibong. He assumed that the system's new upgrade allowed it to ask questions. Kibong replied that he was asked not to fly by Lieutenant Colonel O, who said his flying created chaos within the Air Force. Kibong felt that someone was following him while he was walking. He suspected that the person might be from the Shield Guild, but he couldn't sense any hostility from him. He ordered the system to analyze the man, but the analysis failed, leaving Kibong frustrated. Eventually, the pursuer approached him and sat beside him with a smile on his face. Kibong wondered about the man's intentions. Kibong boarded the bus, deciding not to engage with the man who had been following him. However, he found that the man was already sitting beside him, which surprised him. In a 4-star dungeon, Sword Emperor Park Taram, the vice master of the Shield Guild, was battling multiple giant snake monsters. After killing the surrounding monsters with his sword, he threw his weapon in a particular direction, and the director appeared. Taram questioned why the director was there since he had previously instructed him not to come unless it was urgent. The director responded with surprise and said that Taram was living inside the dungeon, so he assumed it was necessary. The director asked Taram to eliminate someone, but Taram refused and suggested leaving it to the scout team. The director informed him that the scout team had already failed in their mission, which was unusual since they were the best fighters of the Shield Guild and only faced players. They were given priority in terms of equipment and had never failed a mission until now. Taram stopped and was now interested in the mission. Without delay, he rushed to the office of the Prime Minister and made a scene, eventually confronting Gu Seonggyeong, who is both the Prime Minister of South Korea and an S-rank player. Her skills as a player are among the finest, and she decided to become a politician to rescue more players than she could as a warrior. Taram greets Prime Minister Gu Seonggyeong, whom he hasn't seen in 3 years, but she rebuffs his concern and tells him not to call her ma'am. Taram comments on her cold demeanor, and Seonggyeong draws her weapon, reminding him of her temper. Gu Seonggyeong is an S-rank player and the current Prime Minister. She was one of the first-generation Awakeners on that day, which makes her a first. Seonggyeong activated her powerful mass teleport skill to take Taram to a secluded area, impressing him with her abilities. However, she quickly prepared to attack him and accused him of treason. Meanwhile, Kibong arrived at the base and was still being followed by the mysterious man. When the soldiers at the entrance asked if the man was his brother, Kibong denied knowing him. The soldiers at the base stopped the man who was following Kibong and told him that ordinary citizens are not allowed inside. Meanwhile, inside the base, Kibong was contemplating the meaning of the source of the dungeons and decided to gather more daystones to give to the system. While changing, he noticed that the mysterious man was at his window and being pursued by the soldiers. Seonggyeong and Taram were engaged in a battle, with Taram demanding that she hand over Kim Kibong. Seonggyeong, however, revealed that she knew what the Shield Guild was up to. She explained that thanks to Kim Kibong's efforts in dealing with dungeon breaks, the government did not renew its contract with the Shield Guild for the Metropolitan Area Defense Service. This meant that the guild's situation had become problematic as they no longer received their share of the country's taxes. In an attempt to recruit Kim Kibong by offering him money and prestige, the Shield Guild had failed. Kim Kibong had wiped out their team, and now the only thing the Shield Guild could do was to kill him. Seonggyeong attacked Taram with a fire skill, intending to defeat him. Meanwhile, the soldiers in the base caught the mysterious man who had been following Kibong. When Kibong asked why he was following him, the man simply replied that he wanted to see him. Kibong asked for his identity and how he knew him. The mysterious man claimed to know Kibong and that he had emerged from the rift. Kibong was surprised and wondered about the man knowing about him. The man expressed his curiosity to observe Kibong closely and asked to live with him. The vice captain intervened, warning the man about the military's boundaries. However, the man requested to make him a soldier so he could stay. The vice captain laughed and accepted the mysterious man's challenge, with the condition that he must win against him to join the team. Despite Kibong's warning, the vice captain insisted and stated that he will punish the man for his rude behavior towards Kibong. The mysterious man questioned if everyone else in the team had to win against him to join, to which the vice captain responded by calling him an asshole and inviting him to come at him, claiming to be the weakest of the bunch. Taram caught Seonggyeong off guard by dispelling her skill and proceeded to take out a return stone. Seonggyeong attempted to stop him, but it was too late. Taram then reminded her of her title as Korea's strongest and crushed the stone, challenging her to see if she can protect those close to her. The stone activated and Taram vanished, leaving her in the area. Seonggyeong was worried about Kibong as Taram, an S-rank with a myth-grade weapon, was a formidable opponent. In the meantime, the vice captain began the fight with the man, who reiterated that if he won, he could stay, then threw a punch, which the vice captain felt the power of, but Kibong intervened and stopped the attack. Kibong then introduced himself and asked for the man's name, to which he replied that it was Kang Hwai. Kibong told the vice captain that Kang Hwai was not someone he could fight and emphasized the importance of analyzing an opponent's strength. The vice captain felt remorseful for lacking strength. Kang Hui then asked Kibong if his words were directed towards him. Kibong confirmed and asked if Kang Hui still wanted to fight him. Kang Hui expressed his desire to fight Kibong. Team members who were a part of the special dungeon management team that had been observing Kibong for the past 6 months found the idea crazy. The vice captain acknowledged that Kang Hui was strong but believed that Kibong was on a different level altogether. Kang Hui started the attack towards Kibong, but Kibong managed to avoid it with ease and tried to land a hit with a kick, which was blocked by Kang Hui, much to Kibong's surprise. Kibong continued with his attack while questioning Kang Hui's identity and purpose, but Kang Hui refused to reveal any information, stating that it was a secret. In response, Kang Hui delivered a powerful kick, forcing Kibong back. Kibong was taken aback when he was thrown back by Kang Hui's kick, as it was the first time he had ever been knocked back. Kang Hui then launched an energy ball attack at him, which Kibong deflected. He wondered if it was magic. When Kibong asked if it was Kai, Kang Hui confirmed that it was similar and proceeded to fire multiple energy balls at him, to the shock of the other team members. Kang Hui wondered if he had managed to land a hit on Kibong. Kang Hui was surprised to see Kibong unharmed. However, Kibong was angry about his damaged clothes and decided it was his turn to attack. Kang Hui, impressed by Kibong's strength, gave up and stated that it would be okay with staying after winning against the vice captain. But Kibong wasn't finished yet and punched Kang Hui, knocking him out. Kibong then instructed the team to help Kang Hui unpack. The Fire Dragon's Nest is an 8-star dungeon, which is the highest rank in existence, and it is surrounded by many theories. However, all the experts agree on one thing, that if the Fire Dragon wakes up, South Korea will face its biggest crisis since its creation. Inside the dungeon, Taram killed a Fire Dragon hatchling, intentionally awakening the Fire Dragon, causing it to become enraged and potentially starting the downfall of humanity. 10 minutes prior to the Fire Dragon's awakening, the Shield Guild had captured a Fire Dragon hatchling. The director expressed his annoyance, acknowledging that it was still a Fire Dragon despite being a hatchling. Taram asked for a plan to lure Kim Kibong out. The director proposed a simple plan: killing the hatchling to wake up the Fire Dragon. The government would then send special forces to buy time and ultimately send Teen Kim Kibong to manage the situation. Taram questioned how they would deal with the angry Fire Dragon after dealing with Kibong, and the director revealed their plan to seal the dragon using a daystone. The director explained that experiments in Saudi Arabia had revealed something useful, namely that they could use the daystone to induce the dragon to enter another period of slumber. Taram delivered the killing blow to the hatchling while laughing and approving of the plan. The civilians noticed the sky turning red, and the army arrived as news outlets reported an emergency situation and urged citizens to evacuate to nearby underground bunkers due to the government's declaration of martial law. During an interview with a professor, he explained that a great disaster was imminent, citing a similar case in Russia where they sealed a dungeon by dropping countless nuclear warheads on it. However, this approach was not feasible in Incheon, a city with inhabitants. The people were frightened and remembered what happened a decade ago. Seongryong cursed the Shield Guild and demanded that the National Intelligence Service be contacted to locate them. She also inquired about the president's whereabouts and was told that the president had already evacuated to the underground bunker and given her full power. She sighed, knowing that it was her responsibility. They arrived near the dungeon, and she ordered to send an emergency notice to every guild master and to summon the top 100 players of the nation. Kibong and his team arrived at the entrance of the dungeon, where the members were scared, knowing that they were just pawns to buy time. However, Kang Hui was excited to see the dungeon. The vice captain asked Kibong if they would let Kang Hui join them, and Kibong agreed, thinking he might be useful. As they entered the dungeon, only Kibong and Kang Hui managed to enter the dungeon, as the others were rejected. Kibong was surprised to see that Kang Hui managed to enter. Taram appeared and immediately attacked Kibong, who was surprised by Taram's speed. Kibong activated his body enhancement skill to block the attack, but was surprised when he was injured, and the system informed him that his defense had been ignored. The emergency notice reached top players outside the dungeon, including 4th rank Chien Yubin, 99th rank Yui, and others. Kibong was confused by his injury, and Taram showed disappointment towards him. Kibong noticed Taram's Shield Guild tattoo, sighed, and said that he had no time for him, since his priority was to stop the Fire Dragon. Kibong was attacked by Taram and sustained damage, provoking Kibong to attempt to finish the fight quickly. He attacked, destroying the area, but was left kneeling and confused about what happened. Meanwhile, the director observed from afar and laughed. Seongri-yeong arrived at the entrance of the dungeon and asked the vice captain about Kibong's whereabouts. The vice captain explained that they couldn't enter due to the fire dragon's barrier. Seongri-yeong checked the barrier and found that it was not created by the fire dragon but by the Shield Guild in an attempt to kill Kibong. Kibong and Taram's battle continued, with Kibong taking constant damage. Meanwhile, the director revealed that the Vice Guild Master possessed the Light Dragon's Fang, a powerful weapon obtained from a 7-star dungeon. Despite its size, the weapon was incredibly lightweight and sharp enough to cut through any metal. The weapon was also said to be enchanted with numerous spells, including the famous Reflect spell. Kibong learned from the system about the Light Dragon Fang's reflect ability and realized that he was hurting himself with his own attacks. He was impressed by the weapon's power. Taram attacked and wounded Kibong. However, Kibong brushed off the injury and asked Taram to give him the weapon, saying that it would be ideal for his subordinates. Taram was surprised to see that Kibong seemed unfazed by all the damage he had taken. Kibong attributed his ability to withstand the damage to having more blood than most people. However, the system pointed out that a significant portion of the damage he received was self-inflicted and teasingly laughed at Kibong. Kibong scolded the system for providing the information too late and called it useless. Kibong's response angered Taram, causing him to attack. Kibong retaliated, but the reflect ability caused him to take damage as well. Taram was shocked by Kibong's power, evidenced by the destruction caused by their clash. Kibong boasted about the strength of his attacks and decided to test the limit of the sword's reflect ability. The fire dragon was attacking the barrier, causing concern among the other members of the Shield Guild. However, the director assured them that breaking the barrier of an 8-star dungeon from the inside is not an easy feat and that they still have time until the dungeon breaks. The director knew that the dungeon barrier was getting weaker despite his earlier assurance to the Shield members. He acknowledged the strength of the 8-star boss monster and felt that they might need to use the Daystone earlier than planned. He expressed his hope that the Vice Master would finish off Kibong before the situation worsens. During Kibong and Taram's battle, someone approached the director and it turned out to be Kang Hwai. The Shield Guild members recognized him as Kibong's ally and chased after him. Despite taking damage from the Light Dragon Fang's reflect spell, Kibong kept attacking. Taram taunted him, believing that the weapon could reflect any physical attacks. Taram advised Kibong to give up, but Kibong persisted with his attacks. Suddenly, Taram started to stumble and Seongri-yeong felt the tremors of the battle from outside. She considered breaking the barrier forcefully but was reminded by one of her subordinates that as South Korea's commander-in-chief, leaving her post could lead to the raid's failure and the nation's downfall. Seongri-yeong reluctantly agreed and stopped. Taram was relieved to see Kibong stop his attacks, but Kibong urged him to keep blocking and continued his assault. Eventually, Taram fell to his knees and began coughing up blood, confused about how he took damage. He then noticed a crack in his sword. Kibong told him to keep blocking and pressed on with his attacks, causing even more damage and destroying the sword before pummeling Taram into the ground. The fight came to an end with Kang Hwai witnessing Kibong's victory and the pursuing Shield members left in surprise. Kibong regretfully picked up the broken sword and the director was also amazed since Taram was one of the top 3 players in South Korea. The Shield Guild used to act without repercussions due to their strength, but Kibong's triumph shattered that logic. The director observed Taram's defeat and gave the order for the Shield members to withdraw, instructing them to use their return stones. One of the members expressed concern about not using the Daystone to seal the dragon. The director responded by explaining that even if the top 100 rankers in South Korea were to participate in the raid, the chances of success would still be low, and many of the top rankers were members of the Shield Guild. He decided to wait and arrive at the climax of the battle to use the Daystone during a decisive moment. The director stated that although the plan had deviated from the original, the outcome was still the same. They would be seen as the heroes who protected the country from the fire dragon. This would make it difficult for even the prime minister to condemn them, even if she discovered the truth. The director commanded the Shield members to retreat, leaving Taram behind. One of the members hesitated, but the director ordered him to retrieve Taram in front of Kibong. The Shield members exited the dungeon, and Kang Hwai asked Kibong if they would pursue them, but Kibong insisted that their priority was the fire dragon. The fire dragon continued its attack on the barrier, while Seongri-yeong was informed that the damage to the barrier was already at 89% and there were only 5 minutes left until the dungeon break. People outside the dungeon saw the fire dragon, and Seongri-yeong assumed that the Shield Guild had already killed Kibong and removed the barrier. However, they later noticed that Kibong and Kang Wai were still inside. Meanwhile, the TV crew spotted a person on the ground and identified it as Park Taram of the Shield Guild. Seongryong was surprised by Kibong's strength in defeating Taram and tried to contact him, but was informed that the dungeon's radio interference was preventing communication. The dragon attacked the barrier once again, and the damage rate reached 97%. Seongryong realized that they needed to delay the dungeon break to prevent the fire dragon from getting out of the dungeon and putting the entire country in danger. She looked at the gathered players and estimated that there were only around 30 of them, not enough to face the dragon. She believed they needed at least 80 of the top 100 rankers to be ready for the battle. After being informed that Kibong had been contacted, it was Kang Hwai who picked up the earpiece first, but Kibong eventually took over and spoke with Seongryong. She inquired about his condition, to which he replied that it was tolerable, and then asked for further instructions. She reluctantly asked for more time, knowing that it meant risking his life. He agreed to Seongryong's request and hung up. The reporters observed that the people inside the dungeon were moving closer to the fire dragon. An official raised concerns about Kibong's actions, but Seongryong intervened, stating that Kibong represented South Korea's future and hope, and that she had just ordered him to sacrifice himself for all of them. Kibong approached the fire dragon despite his low health, using his skill. However, his health was constantly decreasing due to bleeding from his previous fight. The system recommended that he take a break, but Kibong couldn't leave as it would put his mother in danger. The system suggested escaping overseas with his mother, but Kibong called it trash. Kang Hwai asked Kibong if they were really going to fight the fire dragon. Kibong confirmed that they would. Kang Hwai expressed his doubts about their chances of winning. Suddenly, the fire dragon launched an attack, breathing fire and destroying the surrounding area. Kang Hwai used his shield to block the attack. Kibong was impressed with the skill and asked about it, but before Kang Hwai could explain, the dragon attacked him, sending him flying. After Kang Hwai landed unconscious, the dragon turned its attention to Kibong and launched an attack. Kibong managed to dodge, but the dragon followed up with a tail strike, which Kibong caught with one arm. However, this worsened his wounds and caused his health to drop to 7%. Despite this, Kibong pushed the tail back and retaliated with an attack, striking the dragon's head. It fell to the ground, but Kibong's health continued to decrease to 4% due to the recoil from his attacks. He charged at the dragon, but it breathed fire at him. Kibong dodged the attack, realizing that he couldn't take it due to his low health, but he noticed that the dragon's attack was heading to the barrier, which was already at its limit. Seongryong ordered everyone to run away, but Kang Hwai arrived and blocked the attack. Although he landed hard on the ground, Kang Hwai was happy that he managed to stop the dragon's attack. After praising Kang Hwai for his contribution, Kibong turned his attention back to defeating the fire dragon. As the dragon prepared a powerful attack, Kibong also prepared his own and charged towards the beast. With a powerful strike, Kibong was able to defeat the fire dragon and clear the 8-star dungeon known as the Fire Dragon's Nest. As a reward, Kibong obtained a unique skill known as the First Dragon Slayer, which increases his damage against draconic monsters. Kibong received a warning from the system that his health had dropped to 3% and advised him to get healed. Kang Hwai arrived, bragging about how he had blocked the dragon's attack. Kibong became irritated by both the system and Kang Hwai's constant pestering. Kibong noticed something on the dragon's corpse, its dragon heart, which was an immense energy source. Since Kibong killed the fire dragon before it could expend all of its energy, there was an excess amount of energy left within its body. The fire dragon's body exploded, and Seongryong was surprised along with the people outside. She was then informed that all the rankers, except for those affiliated with the Shield Guild, had arrived and the army was ready to provide support. With her weapon out, she decided it was time to destroy the barrier, but it suddenly disappeared. Concerned for Kibong, she rushed inside and saw the destruction. She called out for Kibong, but found Kang Hwai emerging from the rubble. When she asked about Kibong's whereabouts, Kang Hwai pointed to where he was leaning against a wall. Seongryong approached Kibong and commended him for a job well done. At the Shield Guild building, the director was informed that the Fire Dragon's Nest dungeon had been cleared, but he walked away without answering questions about their next move. It was reported that the Fire Dragon's Nest was cleared by one person from the Department of Defense. Additionally, the Vice Guildmaster of the Shield Guild, Park Taram, and his entourage were arrested by the Prime Minister for causing the Fire Dragon crisis, and all members of the Shield Guild will be charged with treason and receive severe punishments. The main perpetrator of the Fire Dragon crisis, the Shield Guild's director James Lee, is missing and wanted by the government. Seongri-yeong was at a conference where reporters asked for comments on recent events. Seongri-yeong responded by stating that the details had already been made public and suggested that the reporters were more interested in a particular individual involved in the incident. She then introduced Kim Kibong, who was nervous facing the press. Kibong and Kang Hwai met with Yoon, who praised them for clearing the Fire Dragon's nest. While Kang Hwai was excited about the praise, Kibong asked about the people behind Yoon. Yoon then referred to Kibong as the hero who saved the country and mentioned that people show a lot of interest in heroes. Kang Hwai was also praised and was excited to learn that he already had a fan club. Kibong interrupted Kang Hwai's excitement and inquired about their purpose for meeting Yoon. Yoon revealed that they were there for a physical examination, explaining that at the time of Kibong's enlistment, the appropriate equipment was not available to record his scores in the headquarters database. When Kim Kibong joined the military, there was no proper equipment available to measure his abilities and he couldn't take the official examination. As a result, he didn't have a rank in the military's database and could remain relatively anonymous. However, if his rank had been determined and uploaded, the Shield Guild would not have made such a big mistake. Kibong was eager to begin the physical examination, but Yoon informed him that they were still waiting for their host. Yui arrived and greeted Kibong, and they started the examination with a grip strength machine that could measure up to S rank. Yui went first and got an A rank, then it was Kibong's turn. Yoon instructed him to clench as hard as he could, and though he was doubtful, she assured him that the machine's materials were tested by Gu Seongri-yeong and wouldn't break easily. However, to everyone's surprise, the machine was destroyed when Kibong exerted his strength. Yoon was confused, and Kang Hwai felt bad as he also wanted to take the test. The punching machine was also destroyed, and Kibong overloaded the magic power measuring machine. Kang Hwai regretted not going before Kibong. Kibong apologized, and Yui comforted Yoon and suggested proceeding with the interview. The interview began, with Yui requesting to introduce themselves to the audience of over 100,000 people. Kang Hwai was surprised and looked around for the audience while Kibong brought him back to his seat. Yui asked if Kang Hwai's reaction was genuine, and Kibong confirmed that it was. Kibong then introduced himself as the captain of the Special Dungeon Management Team and stated his age, 30 years old, after hesitating for a moment. Yui was surprised that Kibong was older than she expected. Kang Hwai claimed that Kibong was older than he claimed, which led to Kibong hitting him. Yui then asked Kibong about how he became so strong and why he decided to work for the government. Yoon knew the answer: it was for revenge and his mother. Kibong then shared his story and mentioned his family, which made Yui emotional and cry. The public assumed that Yui had also lost someone due to the monsters, while Yui's family watched and questioned her behavior. Her mother was angry, stating that they were still alive, while her father tried to calm her down. The interview ended, and Kang Hwai regretted not being able to contribute to the conversation. Kibong asked if their tasks were complete, but Yoon hesitated to confirm, saying that Yui would handle the next task. Kibong expressed his preference for dealing with the dungeon instead of wasting time on non-essential tasks. Yoon assured him that the next task would be helpful in finding a way to end the madness, fulfilling her promise to assist Kibong. Kibong initially thought Yoon's words were just empty promises, but Yoon insisted that she's been working hard to reach their goal. Kibong then asked for the details of his next task. Yoon led Kibong and Kang Hwai to a facility where different materials were being tested. Kang Hwai seemed excited about the place. Yoon explained that there are many aspects about dungeons that can't be explained with physics today, but researchers have come to understand more and more characteristics. She said that to understand a certain phenomenon properly, they must first comprehend the energy. Yoon went on to explain that they've researched where the dungeon's energy comes from and how it's preserved. She said that if someone can control that energy, they'll most likely be able to control the dungeon and they'll finally have a small solution. Kibong asked if that meant they could control the dungeons, but Yoon said they haven't gotten that far yet. Yoon directed Kibong's attention to a crystal, which was later confirmed by the system as a fragment of a daystone. To Yoon's surprise, Kibong seemed to have knowledge about it. Yoon then informed Kibong that their next task with Yui involved exploring a dungeon that potentially contains a daystone. Kibong was taken aback by this revelation and asked if it was possible to know this in advance. This surprised him, as he had only encountered a single daystone despite clearing countless dungeons and defeating tons of boss monsters. Yoon explained that they were able to make predictions about the daystone thanks to the remains of the fire dragon. They believed it could possibly help control dungeons. Kibong asked why he had to explore the dungeon with Yui instead of doing it on his own. Yoon explained that 3A class or higher players were needed to activate the dungeon, but it wasn't an emergency, so they couldn't recruit many players. She also mentioned that involving a large guild could lead to confidential information being leaked. Kibong concluded that Yui must be trustworthy enough to accompany him. Yoon confirmed the trustworthiness of the third member of the mission, who was close to the Prime Minister, and explained that all members were trustworthy. She also informed Kibong that Yui had permission from the Prime Minister to continue using her personal channel. Yoon received a call from Yui, and they agreed to meet with the team. Kang Hwai expressed his desire to join the mission, but Kibong pointed out that he couldn't because there can only be 3 people inside at a time. Despite Kibong pointing to the counter in the dungeon barrier, Kang Hwai persisted in his desire to join the mission as the third member. Soon after, Yui, who was already live streaming, and Chien Yubin, the leader of the Hwarang Guild, arrived. Chien Yubin introduced himself to Kibong. Chien Yubin is introduced as the guildmaster of the Hwarang Guild and also as one of the first people to awaken 10 years ago when dungeons first appeared. He fought against monsters in the Republic of Korea alongside Prime Minister Gu Seongryong and became one of the heroes who helped save the country. Kibong introduced himself to Chien Yubin and shook his hand while Yui documented their progress with her stream. She mentioned that they will be entering a 6-star dungeon named Moth Chamber. Although it was Yui's first time entering a 6-star dungeon, she expressed confidence in being with 2 strong players. Yui also informed her viewers that streaming inside the dungeon is not possible and ended the stream. Yui greeted Kibong and asked if he already knew the details from Jae-yoon. Kibong confirmed that he did. Kibong remembers Jae-yoon's instruction that he must retrieve the Daystone. Kibong and the team prepared to enter the dungeon. Kang Hwai was instructed to return to headquarters. Once inside, Yui set up another camera to document their progress. However, after exploring for a while, Yubin found it strange that they had not encountered any monsters yet, as typically there would be flying monsters at the beginning of the dungeon. Yui suggested that no monsters appearing could be a good thing, as they could focus on subjugating the boss monster. Yui showed no concern about the absence of monsters and pointed out that Kibong has cleared an 8-star dungeon before. They continued exploring, but Kibong noticed it was getting dark quickly, and Yui explained that it's due to the Moth Chamber's environment. Yubin suggested camping for the night, as it takes 3 days to clear the dungeon, and Yui created a campfire using her magic. In the headquarters, Vice Captain Han Jiwoong was busy with paperwork when an alarm went off, signaling a dungeon break in Gyeonggi Province. One of the members informed him, but they were worried as Kibong wasn't around to help. Jiwoong then remembered something and ordered all team members to be summoned. He saw Kang Hwai, who was crying in his room, as their hope. Jiwoong went to Kang Hwai's room, feeling awkward due to their initial meeting, and pondered what to address him as he knew Kang Hwai's strength. Kang Hwai asked them their purpose, and they informed him about the dungeon break, but he declined to go as Kibong wasn't there. Jiwoong realized that they needed to act immediately before the situation of the dungeon break worsens. He thought of a strategy to persuade Kang Hwai, saying that Kibong would praise him if he clears the dungeon, which caught his attention. However, one of the members doubted the approach. Kang Hwai thought of Kibong complimenting him and got up immediately. Meanwhile, Kibong's group continued their dungeon exploration, and he asked the system to locate the monsters. Eventually, the system reported that there were no monsters within 3 kilometers. Kibong told the team that there were no monsters within 3 kilometers and suggested they speed up. Yubin asked how he knew, and Kibong gave a vague answer. Yubin assumed that, as an SS-class player who cleared an 8-star dungeon, Kibong could sense monsters in a wide area. Yui agreed to quicken their pace and rushed forward, followed by Yubin. Kibong knew matching their speed would take too long, so he activated his skill and went ahead. Yubin asked Yui if it was flight magic, but she denied it as she didn't sense any use of magic, leaving Yubin confused. Kibong requested the system to locate the Daystone and headed straight towards the location it pointed out. However, when he arrived, he saw the stone, but 100 monsters suddenly appeared and attacked him as he tried to approach the stone. Yui and Yubin witnessed the explosion and hurriedly made their way to the site. Yui quickly came up with a plan to reach the top, using a spell to propel themselves upward after using the springy shield. When they arrived, they found Kibong had already defeated the monsters. Yubin was amazed by Kibong's incredible strength, especially as the battle was over in less than 5 minutes. As they approached the Daystone, they discovered that there was a barrier around it. Kibong instructed them to step back and destroyed it with a single punch. They then closed in on the Daystone and the system asked Kibong if he wanted to absorb it, but he refused and instead chose to have it analyzed first. When Kibong touched the stone, they were enveloped in a dark substance. Kang Hui and the team reached the dungeon break location where Jiwoong saluted the lieutenant colonel and inquired about the situation. The lieutenant colonel stated that the dungeons have been acting strange lately and they are unsure if it's related to the current situation. Jiwoong added that he had read a report mentioning the inaccuracy of dungeon predictions in recent times. Jiwoong expressed his concern about the situation. When asked about Kibong's whereabouts, it was revealed that he was on another mission ordered by the Prime Minister. The lieutenant colonel saw this as bad news and expressed concerns about their lack of preparation without Kibong. Jiwoong suggested that there was still another way to handle the situation and, after some consideration, he was given permission to proceed with his plan. Jiwoong was aware that there were only a few people in the country who could fill in for Kim Kibong, and among them, he believed Kang Hui was the most capable, whom he personally knew. Meanwhile, Yui found herself alone and disoriented, wondering about her whereabouts and the possibility of being in a place similar to the moth chamber. However, she quickly brushed aside the thought and concluded that the day stone might have been the reason. Yui then called out for Kibong and Yubin. Kibong asked the system about their location, and it informed him that they were in a nameless unranked dungeon. The system speculated that they were brought there because of the Daystone, but it was not certain. The system suggested that if Kibong absorbed the Daystone, it might be able to determine why they were brought there, but Kibong refused. Kibong admits that he was not paying attention and got himself into a troublesome situation. He now thinks that his priority is to deal with the current situation and leave the place as soon as possible. Yui continued to move forward and documented everything that she saw. However, she became concerned about her current situation as she realized that she had used up too much mana when she cast the flame spell, assuming that there were no monsters nearby. As a result, she was now running low on mana. Yui realized that monsters were surrounding her. Similarly, Yubin found himself facing wolves instead of the expected moth monsters, causing him to realize that something bad was happening as he prepared to fight. Kibong also encountered the same monsters and found them cute. Yui calmed herself down and took out her staff. Kibong defeated the monsters easily but was concerned about Yui and Yubin after seeing the monsters were difficult to deal with. He then asked the system to find their location, and the system showed him a map and their location. Yubin had already started fighting the monsters but had difficulty fighting in the dark. However, as an experienced player, he managed to defeat all the monsters and was worried about Yui, who had used up a lot of mana. Yubin immediately moved forward to find her. Yui utilized her shield to defend herself against the monster's attacks. Due to her limited mana, she couldn't use any offensive magic and had to solely rely on her defense. If she had more mana, she could have used both offense and defense together. Yui considers whether she should risk using her attack magic, as Kibong or Yubin might come to her rescue, but if her mana runs out before they arrive, she fears she will be killed instantly, with no chance to defend herself. After deciding to take a risk and fight the monsters, Yui put away her shield and the monsters immediately attacked. She managed to take down several of them with her attack magic, but her mana was completely depleted. As she continued forward, hoping Kibong and Yubin were safe, a monster attacked her from behind, but Yubin arrived just in time to save her. He then gave her a mana potion. Yui commented on how strange the cave was, noting that the mutated wolves that attacked them showed symptoms only seen in monsters infected by the moth, which was not normal for a moth chamber. Additionally, the cave itself did not match the usual layout for such chambers. Yubin and Yui heard something and quickly moved forward. Yubin mentioned that defeating the boss monster should allow them to return. Yui agreed and spotted a light in the distance. Upon seeing the light, Yui moved towards it but was stopped by Yubin, who gestured for her to be silent. They both cautiously peeked around the corner and were startled to see humanoid monsters. Yui and Yubin were encountering this type of humanoid monster for the first time. As one of the monsters sensed their presence, they were surprised to hear it speak. Yubin thought to himself that the language didn't sound like Korean, but he had heard it before. After one of the monsters searched their area and found nothing, another monster found them and attacked Yui and Yubin. They dodged the attack and prepared to fight. Yubin noticed the surgical markings on the monster and realized it was an artificial creation. He asked Yui how much mana she had left, and she said she had enough for 4 or 5 more spells. Yubin charged forward to attack but couldn't cut through the monster. The monster prepared to attack Yubin, but Yui's spell stopped it, and he retreated. Yubin thanked Yui and expressed his concern about the other 2 monsters nearby who were engaged in conversation. He felt they needed a quick and efficient victory before those two could join the fight and complicate things. Yubin asked Yui to buff him with her remaining mana, and she obliged by using 3 buffs on him. With the buffs, Yubin was able to land multiple attacks on the monster. However, he was surprised to see that the monster bled red blood, unlike any other monster he had encountered before. This made him question if he was really fighting a monster. After defeating the first monster, the other 2 monsters joined the fight, but Yubin managed to dodge their attacks. Yubin asked Yui about her remaining mana, but she had used it all for the buff and could only use 1 or 2 spells. Yubin knew he had to defeat the 2 monsters quickly before the buff expired, so he charged forward to attack. Meanwhile, Kibong was informed by the system that a battle was occurring and estimated he will reach them in 30 minutes if he took the shortest route through the cave-like dungeon. However, Kibong thought it was too long and decided to smash through the walls to reach them faster. Yubin and Yui were struggling against the 2 monsters, with Yui providing support spells. The system then informed Kibong that he would arrive at their location in just 1 minute. Yubin injured one of the monsters and Yui stopped the other from attacking him from behind. The monsters then spoke and acknowledged that they were stronger than the humans they had faced before. However, they revealed that they were immortal beings called new humans after something was transplanted into them. They claimed that no human had ever survived after fighting them. The 2 monsters merged together and absorbed the dead monster, leaving Yubin and Yui in a difficult situation. Yubin asked Yui to use her remaining mana to buff him one more time, knowing they couldn't fight the merged monster in their current state. Yui agreed, but could only divide her remaining mana into 3 buffs, each only a third as effective as normal. After Yubin received the buffs from Yui, he charged forward to fight the monster. The walls suddenly exploded, and Kibong appeared and immediately destroyed the monster. He was relieved to see Yui and Yubin were safe. They inspected the corpse, and the system discovered a Daystone's energy within the monster's body. However, the scan was unsuccessful as an unknown entity was holding the energy. Yubin tried to finish off the monster, but Kibong stopped him and asked the system to absorb the energy. After absorbing the energy, the monster disintegrated, but it was not enough to unlock a new feature for the system. The system then asked for the Daystone that he was holding. Kibong thought that it was getting better at expressing itself. The system informed Kibong that it sensed a dungeon boss and a fragment of filthy energy behind a wall. Yui wondered about the whereabouts of the boss, while Kibong smashed the walls and advanced forward. The 2 followed Kibong inside and found the boss monster. They were taken aback to discover that the boss monster was already on the verge of death. The system then stated to Kibong that the boss was incapacitated and appeared to be requesting to be killed. Kibong asked the system if it could sense the boss monster's emotions and was surprised to learn that it could feel its rage, sorrow, fear, and resignation. He found it odd that a monster would ask for its own death. The A-rank hunters were also suspicious of the situation as they found the Moth Queen, who was supposed to be in the Moth Chamber, fatally injured and restrained in an unknown dungeon inhabited by unidentifiable monsters. They had raided many Moth Chambers before, so they knew that something was not right. Yui discovered that a magic circle of restraint was used to hold the boss monster, which could only be activated by an S-rank hunter. Meanwhile, Yubin observed that the monster had been cut open and its organs removed, indicating that it had been used for its useful parts before being left to die. Yui agreed and concluded that they were in an artificial dungeon created by someone. Yubin expressed his shock at the possibility of someone conducting experiments on monsters. Meanwhile, Kibong thought that such a situation was not entirely unexpected, as they were also conducting experiments on the remains of a fire dragon in South Korea. He realized that they needed to leave the dungeon quickly to avoid any danger. Kibong instructed the system to absorb the energy from the dying boss monster, causing it to disintegrate and revealing the exit. As they left, Kibong promised to explain everything, but they needed to get out of the dungeon first. Outside, they were met by Jae-yoon, who informed them that they had been inside the dungeon for 2 months, which shocked them. Kibong asked the system to confirm, and it verified that it was true. Upon arrival, Seongryong was relieved to see them safe and watched the recording of what happened inside the dungeon with Jae-yoon. Seongryong then told Yui and Yubin to rest and that the recording will stay classified, taking Yui's camera to copy the content and delete the original file. After the 2 left, Kibong showed the Daystone to Seongryong, who praised him for his work and wondered about the limits of his strength. Kibong humbly replied, and Seongryong expressed her belief that possessing the Daystone would help humanity move closer to the end of the monster phenomenon. Kibong exited the building and saw Kang Hwai and his team waiting for him in a ragged state. The system informed Kibong that his team had all been awakened as players but detected an unknown power that didn't belong to players, similar to Kang Hwai's. Kibong was surprised and the team saluted him. Kibong praised them for their hard work while he was away. And Kang Hwai cheered from being praised by Kibong. The vice captain explained what happened while Kibong was away. On the day after Kim Kibong entered the dungeon, Kang Hwai was killing monsters from the dungeon break while the army watched in awe. Jiwoong was surprised by Kang Hwai's strength and remembered the punch Kang Hwai threw at him, realizing he could have become like the monsters that Kang Hwai was destroying. Jiwoong felt frustrated by his own powerlessness and wished to become stronger. He watched Kang Hwai destroy monsters from the dungeon break and felt envious of his strength. Jiwoong expressed his desire to become as strong as Kang Hwai and not stand on the sidelines. Following Kang Hwai's triumph over the monsters, Jiwoong shared his intention with the team to seek Kang Hwai's advice on how to enhance his own strength. Although some team members had reservations about the idea, Jiwoong remained resolute in his decision to take action and not solely rely on the captain and Kang Hwai in the future. He believed that there was nothing to lose in seeking Kang Hwai's guidance. Jiwoong approached Kang Hwai and expressed his desire to become stronger like him and asked if it was possible for ordinary humans to gain his power. Kang Hwai smiled and assured him that it was indeed possible to become stronger. Kang Hwai took Jiwoong and the team to the mountains and led them to the same place where he trained. Jiwoong asked if Kang Hwai trained by meditating under the waterfall or eating strange herbs and plants, to which Kang Hwai replied affirmatively. Jiwoong was surprised that his guess was correct. Jiwoong prepared himself for the training, and the team started with standing under the waterfall, throwing punches, hanging from trees, climbing mountains, and catching their own food. They trained every day and each member showed progress. After hearing about the intense training that Kang Hwai put the team through for 2 months, Kibong was impressed. Jiwoong then asked Kibong to rely on them from now on, to which Kibong responded that he has always relied on them. Hearing this, the team was emotional. While Kang Hwai observed, he felt content with the progress of the team. Throughout the 2 months when Kim Kibong was inside the moth chamber, the team took advantage of the time to enhance their combat abilities and strengthen their bond as a team. In some place, a man was checking the records of various players, including Yui. 3 people entered the room, and the man expressed his disappointment to them. However, a woman called the Ebony-Eyed Witch assured him they would set things right and would immediately go to South Korea. Meanwhile, the army was transporting the remains of the fire dragon, and the chopper escort informed the convoy about an incoming tunnel. After the first truck carrying the corpse of the fire dragon entered the tunnel, the entrance suddenly collapsed. The people on the truck were informed that the others would take a detour. The driver agreed and decided to proceed. However, they saw a similar truck in front of them, confusing them. After feeling that something was wrong, the driver of the truck transporting the remains of the fire dragon decided to check the vehicle and open the cargo area. Unfortunately, they were ambushed by the people inside. The leader of the hijackers answered the soldiers' radio and stated the time they will exit the tunnel. Later, the chopper escort saw a truck exiting the tunnel and instructed the others to follow the route, unaware of the events that took place inside the tunnel. Meanwhile, the hijackers drove the original truck out of the tunnel. At the same time, Seongri-yeong was attending an event when she noticed that the people around her were under a charm spell. Realizing that it was the work of a highly skilled magician, she then saw someone she recognized, the Shield Guild's guildmaster, Park Uram, appear in front of her. Uram asked Seongri-yeong why she wanted to get rid of their guild, and Seongri-yeong responded that the guild had committed crimes and needed to be punished. Uram then asked if Seongri-yeong would incriminate her as well, and she released her power. Seongri-yeong maintained that if someone commits a crime, they would be arrested and punished, regardless of who they were. Uram replied that Seongri-yeong was still as stuck up as ever and walked away, saying she couldn't wait and had always wanted to fight her. Seongri-yeong turned around to see that Uram was already gone and the people under the spell were released. She immediately ordered her subordinate to summon the security division. Meanwhile, Kibong's team had successfully defeated the monsters, impressing Kibong himself. He estimated that they could stop low-rank dungeon breaks without him. However, they received orders to gather at headquarters because the remains of the fire dragon had been stolen. In an unnamed building on the outskirts of Seoul, the generals of the Republic of Korea's Third Army, government officials responsible for national defense and security, and Captain Kim Kibong of the Special Dungeon Management Team had gathered. At the meeting, the agenda was focused on the case of the stolen fire dragon's corpse and the unauthorized entry of the Shield Guild's master, who was staying abroad. The group was shown pictures of the unknown group who stole the corpse arriving in the country and disabling the cameras. They were also informed that the guild master's deception magic was so strong that they only realized she had entered the country after checking the CCTV footage. Seongryong expressed her dissatisfaction at the country's security being so easily bypassed. Seongryong knew that Yuram's skills had improved and her deception magic was strong enough to control an entire airport. She then asked about the current location of the fire dragon's corpse and was informed that they were still analyzing the CCTV footage of the roads. However, the thieves seemed to know the locations of the cameras and were able to break them, making it difficult to track them down. Seongryong became angry and suggested using other cameras, such as those in cars and even people's phones. One of the men at the meeting suggested prioritizing the search for the fire dragon's corpse, concerned that it might be taken abroad and the resulting backlash that they would receive. The value of the fire dragon's corpse was considered to be astronomical, and it was impossible to put a monetary value on it. This was because no country or organization had officially cleared an 8-star dungeon before. Seongryong recognized the concern of the people about the fire dragon's corpse, but she emphasized that they had no other option. With Kibong being the only one available to pursue the Shield Guild's master, Seongryong decided to assign Kibong to work with the National Intelligence Agency to pursue the guildmaster, while Kang Hwai and the rest of the team would work with the military to track down the stolen fire dragon's corpse. Seongryong emphasized the importance of the two incidents and solving them without the aid of other guilds. One person expressed concern about Kibong facing the Shield Guildmaster alone. Seongryong then called in agent Gu Jue, who introduced herself to Kibong. Some people were surprised by her sudden appearance. The director questioned Seongryong's decision to call Jue back without informing them. Seongryong apologized and explained the urgency of the situation. The other people expressed doubt about agent Gu Jue being of help to Kibong. The director then reminded them of someone called Tamer, who was able to evacuate Seongnam citizens to safety without any casualties during the Battle of Seongnam. It was later revealed that Tamer was an 18-year-old girl who was then appointed as an agent in the National Intelligence Service. Tamer is known as Gu Jue and is considered the greatest veteran agent in the intelligence service, working under her real name. After the meeting, Kang Hwai expressed his frustration after hearing he won't be with Kibong on their next mission. Jue approached them and expressed curiosity about Kang Hwai. However, Kang Hwai noticed something about her and quickly hid behind Kibong. Jue smiled and made a comment about Captain Kim hanging around an insolent child, but corrected herself, saying that calling him a child wasn't quite accurate. Kang Hwai was surprised that Jue knew about him, while Kibong was confused about their conversation. The island of Heavenly Evil is a notorious prison from which no one has ever escaped alive. This is where Park Taram was being held. A group arrived at the entrance, and the guards asked for their names. Park Yuram declared that they were from the Shield Guild and stated that she was searching for her little brother. The soldiers at the island of Heavenly Evil were unable to stop the Shield Guild's progress due to Yuram's magical abilities. The soldiers were confused about how the group had managed to reach the island as they needed to pass through multiple checkpoints. Yuram killed the soldiers blocking their path. As they progressed further, players and soldiers blocked Yuram's group, but she warned them to step aside. However, a player stated that they were prepared and activated a spell that nullified Yuram's deception magic and deployed battle drones. Yuram, however, remained unfazed and laughed it off. Meanwhile, Taram was awakened by screams from outside his room and a player crashed through the door. Yuram's group greeted him as they entered the room. After a while, Kibong and Jue arrived at the prison, which was in ruins. Kibong received a notification from the system that there were no survivors inside, which he shared with Jue. When she asked how he knew, Kibong insisted on going inside first. Once inside, they discovered the bodies of soldiers and players. Jue then summoned the rats in the area, which surprised Kibong. However, she reassured him that they were friends. Jue was a tamer, a person with the ability to communicate with animals or plants, as if they were friends. This was an incredibly rare ability, even among players. Kibong asked the system what Jue was doing, and it replied that she was communicating with the animals. Jue then informed Kibong that, according to the rats, after killing everyone, the Shield Guild had escaped the prison and headed west. She was confident that even though Yuram was skilled in deception, it would be impossible to trick everyone. Taram was curious about how Yuram had entered the country and was worried that Seongryong would come after them. Yuram, however, warned him not to refer to Seongryong as a sister, calling her ungrateful and accusing her of stabbing them in the back. When Taram asked what their next move was, Urim just laughed and said he would find out soon enough. She expressed her anger towards Korea for betraying them and promised to punish everyone involved, especially Gu Seonggyeong and her followers. Taram expressed doubt about being able to defeat Kim Kibong if they fought again. Urim thought that Taram had become a coward while she was away, but he insisted that they should go abroad. He also doubted that she could defeat Kibong. However, he was surprised by Urim's strength when she grabbed him and wondered if she had always been that strong. Urim then revealed that she was not the same as before and was confident that no one could stop her. Jue used the birds to locate the Shield Guild's location, and Kibong asked her about the master of the Shield Guild. Urim described the master as a scary person, one of the earliest to be awakened, and stronger and more cruel than anyone else. She added that the master did not hesitate to sacrifice civilians in order to gain strength and kill monsters. Kibong was surprised that someone like her was able to act without restraint, but Jue explained that it was just how things were in the past. Kibong and Jue arrived at the location of the Shield Guild, and Kibong used the system to locate the people inside a warehouse. He proposed a plan to minimize casualties and gather information, deciding to attack from the right side. Jue was surprised by Kibong's ability to determine the exact number and location of the people inside the warehouse. Kibong and Jue entered the warehouse and were immediately spotted by the two guards who attacked them, but Jue summoned a cat that stopped them. Meanwhile, Kang Hwai and the rest of the team were searching for traces of the fire dragon's corpse. The vice captain was doubtful about Kang Hwai's action of sniffing the ground, but Kang Hwai pointed confidently in a direction. Jue's cat defeated the guards, and they met Urim and Taram, who were surprised to see Jue. Jue's use of the term sister to refer to Urim made her angry, as she had already warned Jue not to use it before. Urim then pulled out a return stone and threatened to kill both Jue and Seonggyeong. In response, Jue commanded her cat to attack, intending to stop her, but two of Urim's associates transformed into monsters and easily defeated the cat. Kibong recognized these monsters were similar to the monsters they saw inside the dungeon. Urim then taunted them to stop her if they could defeat the monsters. The two monsters attacked Jue, Kibong quickly destroyed them and then rushed towards Urim, who was activating the return stone. Kibong attacked and was able to break Urim's barrier, but Urim and Taram were able to escape using a return stone. Jue suspected that they were planning something, but Kibong believed they couldn't have gone too far and prepared to chase after them. Urim and Taram arrived in Shihyung, Gyeonggi-do, where Urim was shocked by Kibong's strength and vomited blood. Despite her condition, she assured Taram that she was fine. Urim asked Taram to leave and rest, and the director of Shield Guild, James Lee, arrived and informed her that the mercenaries with the fire dragon's corpse were already gathered in the city. He noticed that Urim had become stronger and remarked that she would do anything to become even stronger. Urim then asked him about Kim Kibong, and James revealed that Kibong had appeared suddenly one day and Shield Guild had failed to recruit him, judging him to be a threat, and they tried to eliminate him but also failed. James also mentioned that Kibong's younger sibling and father had died in a dungeon break and his mother was in a coma. Urim then asked about Kibong's relationship with Gu Seonggyeong, to which James replied that there was nothing between them. Urim expressed her doubts about James' statement that there is nothing between Kibong and Seonggyeong and believed that Kibong must have been given something by Seonggyeong. She then used a spell to affect the people in the area and declared that it was just a beginning of what would happen when the country she had protected abandons her. Kang Hwai led the team on a search for the thieves and pointed towards the city, but the team was doubtful about their presence there. However, Kang Hwai insisted that his nose never fails him. The army following them also expressed their doubts, but the vice captain asked them to trust Kang Hwai. Suddenly, Kang Hwai asked them to stop. After they got off from their vehicles, they were attacked by masked men, but the vice captain intervened and stopped them. He is now convinced that they are in the right place, while Kang Hwai was satisfied that he was correct and prepared to attack. In the battle, the Kang Hwai's team had the advantage, while Kang Hwai took care of the snipers. The leader of the army was impressed by their skills. The attackers were revealed to be members of the Shield Guild. However, the enemies injected themselves with something, and they gained more power and attacked again, but Kang Hwai easily defeated them. Kang Hwai was worried that he had interfered when he didn't need to, seeing his team was ready to attack, but the vice captain and the team reassured him that the enemies were weak compared to dungeon monsters and they were eager to catch the thieves. Yui announced a collaboration with a YouTuber named Jinda and ended her stream, but became worried that he wasn't answering her calls since yesterday. She then decided to visit him. The SHIELD Guild members who attacked Kang Hwai's team were captured, while the vice captain inspected the drugs used by the attackers. They were then informed that they had found the truck, but it was empty. The vice captain instructed the commander to transfer the terrorists to the headquarters while they continue their search using Kang Hwai's method. Yubin was training his skills in a 5-star dungeon but wasn't satisfied after seeing Kibong's power. He then killed the boss monster and was later informed by his subordinates that they couldn't contact their members in Shihyung. Worried, Yubin decided to go there himself. Jue tells Kibong that she is sure that Urim will not be stopped without a fight, and they both assume that the ones who stole the corpse are also part of the SHIELD Guild. Kibong questions why Urim hasn't taken the corpse abroad yet, and Jue explains that teleporting between countries must be impossible, and the National Intelligence Service believes that it is impossible to teleport the fire dragon's corpse due to its magical properties. Kibong speculated about the purpose of the stolen dragon's corpse and remembered the humanoid monsters they encountered. Kang Hwai called Kibong and informed him that they had found the thieves, but Kibong asked to speak with the vice captain, who told him they were already heading to the location in Gyeonggi-do Sihyung. Kibong decided to head there as well. Jue asked if Kang Hwai was the one who called, and when Kibong asked her about him, she warned him about trusting Kang Hwai too much. She then suggested they search for traces of Park Urim at the location. However, they were interrupted by the reanimated monster corpse that tried to attack them, but Kibong quickly destroyed it. While Urim watched, the machine beside her began ejecting something. Soon after, the former officials of the SHIELD Guild appeared and greeted her, stating that they had carried out her orders. Urim thanked them, acknowledging that their success was due to their hard work, but then reminded them that she knew they had left her brother behind and fled, causing the officials to appear frightened. Park Urim gave the item to the previous SHIELD Guild officials and ordered them to inject it, promising that it would take them to another level. Despite their initial hesitation, they took the items and screamed, while Urim assured them that they would be the strongest ex-humans ever under the blessing of hype. Urim revealed her plan to use the fire dragon's corpse to make an army and destroy the country, then purify Korea to become the world of hype. Taram witnessed the scene and was confused. Upon arriving at her destination, Yui continued to worry about Jinda. She was surprised to see that the streets and shops were deserted. Suddenly, she saw something falling from the sky like snow and noticed that people were turning into monsters. The tiny particles triggered Yui's automatic shield, which is a defensive magic activated in response to sudden enemy attacks. She realized that these particles were responsible for the transformation of people into monsters and thought that it could not be a dungeon break as the government would have known about it. Yui resolved to find the root cause of the situation. While Yui was running, she encountered a child and followed him. Meanwhile, Kibong carried Jue. Upon landing, Jue was relieved they arrived quickly. The system informed Kibong about a magical abnormality and deception magic spread throughout the city, confirming that Park Urim was there. The system also informed Kibong that he had become immune to the status condition. Jue noticed small particles and drank an immunity potion to resist enemy magic attacks. They saw people in the city turning into human monsters, and Kibong asked the system to analyze them. The system replied that they were infected with unidentified magic and that destroying the source could stop the process of transformation. Jue asked if they should deal with the infected people, but Kibong said no, as they were still human and they needed to enter the city quickly and avoid battles. While they proceeded forward, Kibong instructed the system to locate the source of the magic. The system advised Kibong to reach higher ground as the inhibition magic was too strong. Kibong left Jue behind and quickly ascended a tall building where he was attacked by humanoid monsters. However, he effortlessly defeated them. Once on top, Kibong requested the system to search for the origin of the magic and the location of Park Urim. Meanwhile, Urim sensed that Kibong was already in the area. After a while, the system located the mana source with 1 main and 4 auxiliary supply units. Kibong wanted to break it immediately, but the system informed him that the main device could only be destroyed if all 4 auxiliary supplies were broken simultaneously, otherwise they would be restored automatically. Kibong was frustrated upon hearing this. The system informed Kibong that there were people unaffected by the magic, including Jue, Kang Hwai's team, Yui, and Yubin's group. Kibong returned to Jue and told her he found a solution. Meanwhile, Yui followed a child into a building and met other survivors who were initially cautious of her, but one of the people recognized her. Yui was relieved and asked the people what happened, and the mother of the child explained that the transformation happened suddenly a few days ago. The survivors told Yui they felt strange upon touching the red powder confirming her suspicion that it causes infection. She noticed that wearing masks helped the survivors stay safe. They asked if rescue was coming, and she assured them, but she knew that the cognitive impairment magic would make it difficult. Suddenly, infected people arrived, and Yui used magic to incapacitate them without causing serious harm. She directed the survivors to run to another building, but a humanoid monster appeared and warned her not to interfere with their master's work. The monster launched an attack, but Yui fought it back with her magic and wounded it. In retaliation, the monster hurled a car at her, but she evaded it and caused an explosion with another spell, eventually defeating it. Yui then sensed people approaching from behind, who turned out to be Yubin and his group. She briefed them on how the red powder was turning people into monsters. Suddenly, Yubin sensed another presence and prepared to fight, but it was Kang Huai's group. Yubin inquired why they were there, and the vice captain revealed that the Shield Guildmaster, Park Urim, was the one responsible for the city's current state. Learning this, Yui and Yubin were worried as they realized they might not be capable of handling Urim alone. Yubin learned that Kibong was in the area from the vice captain, and Kibong soon arrived with Yue. Yui was surprised and glad to see Yue alive, while Yubin appeared shy. Kibong explained their plan to crush the enemies and save the citizens by simultaneously destroying the mana supply. Kang Huai and the vice captain were assigned to Sector 1, Yue to Sector 2, Yubin to Sector 3, and Yui to the 4th sector. The system warned Kibong that they needed to destroy the mana supply within a 30-second error range, or it would regenerate. Kibong set a strict deadline for the group to destroy the magic source at exactly 14:30. He wished them good luck as they split up to their designated locations. Jue called out to Yubin telling him to be safe, but he didn't respond and continued walking. As the operation began, Kang Huai's team advanced. And Kang Huai saw the device on top of a building and decided to head first, but he was intercepted by a Shield Guild official who attacked, causing him to crash to the ground. Taryuk warned them that they wouldn't be able to get through to him, and the vice captain recognized him as a member of the Shield Guild. Kang Huai stood up while Taryuk aimed to demonstrate his devotion to their leader by eliminating them. But Kang Huai made fun of Taryuk's bad breath, enraging him and provoking him to attack, while Kang Huai charged toward him. Meanwhile, Yubin's group also encountered another official of the Shield Guild, Kang Minseok, who wanted to test Yubin's speed and appeared behind Yubin. But Yubin did the same and they clashed multiple times. Yubin wondered if Minseok was always that fast. While Minseok praised him for his speed, stating he was faster than before, Yubin replied that there was a mountain that he wanted to surpass. However, Minseok assured him that he can't as he will be dying today. In a different place, Kibong encountered monsters blocking his way and started to destroy them. Suddenly, he ran into Park Taram and asked him if he intended to block him without the White Dragon's sword. Taram admitted he had no chance of winning and pulled out the drug. However, he changed his mind and destroyed it. Taram explained that his sister was there and he couldn't just let Kibong go despite the situation. In another area, Yui arrived near the device and dodged a magic attack. Then, Shin Mi from the Shield Guild appeared and threatened to tear her apart. In response, Yui insulted her by calling her an old lady, which angered Mi, causing her to attack. However, Yui was able to block the attack with her shield. At the same time, Jue was confronting Hyodiak, who had transformed into a monster. She summoned all the nearby animals and prepared for the fight. Taram initiated the attack on Kibong, but his moves were easily dodged and blocked by Kibong, who sent him flying with a kick. This continued several times, and Taram found it difficult to stand up. Kibong asked him why he didn't choose to become a monster to have better chances of winning, but Taram replied that he still had his pride. Kibong then reminded him that pride wouldn't protect his loved ones. Kibong knocked out Taram with a stomp, while James and Urim were discussing the disturbance in the city. Urim expressed annoyance towards Kibong, but James suggested taking a break and assured her of their safety as long as the auxiliary mana supplies remained intact. However, Urim seemed confident and stated that Kibong was not her opponent as she had changed, and it was Kibong who should be careful, not her. Urim took control of the people below, with the aim of luring them towards Kibong to test if he would harm innocent civilians. As Kibong approached the building, he noticed the infected people gathered there. Urim then launched an attack towards Kibong, but the system warned him that avoiding it would result in the civilians being caught in the blast. Thus, the system recommended blocking the attack, which Kibong did successfully, nullifying Urim's attack. However, the attack continued and barely missed Urim, leading her to become infuriated. She jumped down and landed amidst the civilians. Urim confronted Kibong and accused him of being arrogant for causing chaos in her absence. Kibong then made a request for Urim not to surrender, to which she laughed and dismissed the idea. She sprouted wings and claimed that facing her would lead to Kibong's defeat. She then instructed the infected people to attack Kibong. Meanwhile, Taryuk was overpowering Kang Hwai, who retaliated with several attacks, but Taryuk was unfazed. Taryuk grabbed Kang Hwai and threw him to the ground. The other team members, who were already injured, were concerned as they watched Kang Hwai struggle in battle. Taryuk's attacks on Kang Hwai continued, and the vice captain intervened and tried to distract Taryuk to give Kang Hwai a chance. Unfortunately, Taryuk hit the vice captain, sending him flying into a wall. Taryuk was about to kill the vice captain when Kang Hwai interrupted with an attack. To which Taryuk told Kang Hwai to wait for his turn to die. Kang Hwai then transformed and expressed the desire to know if Taryuk's liver is as hard as his skin. As the infected people charged towards Kibong, he utilized the Dragon Fear skill, causing them to flee, while Urim fell to her knees in fear. Kibong reminded her not to surrender before she rose into the air and attacked him with magic, which he easily blocked and evaded. After Urim used another spell that was also evaded, Kibong asked if she had any other tricks up her sleeve. Enraged with her skill being mocked, Urim used the Death Laser skill, but Kibong managed to dodge most of them. However, he eventually got hit by the attack, which pleased Urim. But Kibong emerged unharmed after resisting the abnormal status destruction and charged towards her immediately. Urim launched multiple attacks at Kibong, but his resistance made him impervious to them. They clashed with their attacks, and Urim's arm morphed into a monster's arm, but it was destroyed by Kibong's attack, causing her to crash onto the ground. Urim couldn't believe that Kibong was unscathed by her death laser. Kibong then approached her, and Urim sensed that he was looking at her with pity. She responded by attacking him. Kang Hwai inflicted a serious wound on Taryuk's chest, causing him to collapse on his knees. Kang Hwai remarked that his flesh was soft like tofu, to which Taryuk questioned Kang Hwai's identity. Kang Hwai simply responded that an insect doesn't need to know. Taryuk called him an arrogant beast and said that killing him wouldn't make any difference. Kang Hwai retorted that Taryuk's comrades were no different from him. He then delivered the killing blow, defeating Taryuk. Urim was being overpowered by Kibong and was thrown around until he grabbed her by the neck. Kibong reminded her that she should be responsible for her own actions, regardless of why she did what she did. Kibong remembered what happened to his mother and the civilians and warned Urim that he would kill her in the most painful way possible. Urim was being thrown around by Kibong and couldn't believe that she was being overpowered so easily. She couldn't accept that the once feared Park Urim was helpless in front of Kibong's strength. Kibong launched an attack on Urim, but she managed to escape and headed towards the device. Kibong followed, but it was too late as Urim had already begun absorbing the fire dragon's parts. Meanwhile, Yubin was engaged in a battle with Minseok, and he was struggling, and he knew he didn't have much time left. In a risky move, he lowered his guard and provoked Minseok to attack. After receiving the attack, he then retaliated by slicing his throat. Yubin reminded Minseok that when trying to take someone's life, they should be prepared to risk their own. Afterward, Yubin headed towards the device. Urim expressed her satisfaction with the newly acquired power, expressing gratitude to Kibong and claiming to be even stronger than the fire dragon and the harbinger of the apocalypse. However, Kibong received a warning from the system that a draconian had appeared, an unknown monster whose strength could not be measured. Urim prepared a powerful attack and repeated Kibong's words, reminding him not to surrender to her. Kibong found Urim's words amusing, and she threw multiple spells at him. However, he charged forward and dispelled the attacks, activating the first Dragon Slayer skill to increase his damage against draconic monsters. Kibong landed a powerful attack on Urim, causing an explosion that sent her flying through several buildings. He then asked the system to locate Urim, but it failed to locate a draconian's signal and instead searched for her vitality signals. The system replied that Urim's HP was currently below 1% and displayed her location. Kibong decided to finish her off and immediately headed to her location. The system reminded Kibong of the time and recommended that he prioritize destroying the mana source. After defeating her opponent, Yui was in a weakened state and checked the time. She struggled to stand up and prepared to destroy the device. Meanwhile, Jue was also in a bad condition with several dead and injured animals around her. She apologized to her teammates and vowed to remember their sacrifices. Standing in front of the device, Kibong inquired about the others but was informed by the system that it would be difficult to check due to the inhibition magic. Nevertheless, Kibong trusted his comrades and waited for the arranged time before destroying the device. Similarly, the others also succeeded in destroying their respective devices. After completing the mission, Kang Hui reverted to his original appearance and was asked by the vice captain about their mission. Kang Hui confirmed that they had accomplished their mission, which relieved the vice captain, who then fainted. After successfully completing their mission, the skies returned to their normal state. Meanwhile, Urim transformed back into her human form. James Lee arrived, carrying Taram with him. Urim attempted to tell James something, but he interrupted her and blamed her for the mission's failure. He mentioned that he even brought her younger brother, hoping that she would succeed, but it was all for nothing. James added that there was not much time left and suggested saving their reunion for the afterlife. James removed the object from Urim's chest, claiming that it would be put to better use. Taram struggled to get up, but he was too weak. Urim questioned James about his true identity. James expressed his disappointment, stating that the extent of hype was more powerful than Urim had realized. Taram was filled with despair as he watched Urim disintegrate and die. James pulled out a returned stone, but before he could use it, Kibong appeared behind him and questioned his actions. James expressed his surprise at seeing Kibong again in this state. Kibong then demanded that James hand over the item he had taken from Urim. James commented on how rough Kibong's greeting was, to which Kibong replied that it was time to say goodbye. Kibong attacked James, but James disappeared and reappeared behind him, wanting to talk. James complimented Kibong's strength but claimed that he was ignorant of the dangerous and deep world. James mentioned a place called Hype and offered to tell Kibong more about it, even offering to make Kibong a member using his authority. Kibong questioned James about Hype, and James described it as a new race and the future of mankind, offering Kibong membership in the group. James claimed that Hype was on an entirely different level compared to being a part of a country or a guild, calling it the New World Order. Kibong expressed his lack of interest in joining Hype and instead threatened to destroy them. Kibong charged towards James and grabbed him by the neck, causing James to panic as he realized he couldn't activate his skill. James warned Kibong for refusing his advice and expecting to get away with it, claiming that there's nothing that can bind him in this world. Seongryong arrived at the scene of the rescue operation in the city, where her subordinate informed her that the magic covering the city had been broken. She quickly ordered her subordinates to assess the situation and rescue the victims, while also instructing them to search for Urim's whereabouts. Seongryong was puzzled by how the illusion magic could have been broken, knowing that Par Urim was a skilled wizard and wouldn't be defeated easily. Seongryong hurriedly searched the area and stumbled upon the wounded Yui, along with the lifeless body of Shin Mi. After questioning Yui about what happened, Seongryong complimented her on her bravery, which pleased Yui. She then took Yui's phone to review the recorded video and assured her that she would return it to her later. The other members of the team were receiving medical attention when they noticed an explosion in the distance. Meanwhile, the mastermind responsible for the chaos was in his office when a portal suddenly opened in front of him. He saw Kibong holding James and realized that it was not an accidental communication portal opening, but rather Kibong's doing. Kibong threatened the mysterious man, wondering what to do with him. The man taunted Kibong, saying that young people lacked discipline. Kibong warned him to hide because he would find them and tear them apart. The man laughed and revealed his location, saying he would be waiting for Kibong there. After Kibong and the mysterious man's conversation, the portal closed. Seongryong and the group arrived, and Kibong praised their hard work. Seongryong thanked Kibong for his help and acknowledged that they could have lost more without him. Yui expressed her sadness about the casualties, and Jue apologized for not being able to track Urim sooner. However, Seongryong reassured Jue that they couldn't have ended it without her help. The president arrived and apologized for being late, stating that he will take full responsibility for what happened. Seongryong expressed concern about possible remaining enemies, but the president insisted on being present for the sake of his citizens. Seongryong asked if he would risk his life even in the face of a fire dragon, to which the president admitted that the law dictates he should evacuate to a bunker during such an event. He then approached Kibong and praised him for his deeds. After praising Kibong, the president approached Taram, who was still grieving over Urim's death. Despite being warned to stay away, the president expressed his condolences but also stated that it's natural for people to be punished when they commit a crime and that it won't be easy for Taram to get out of this situation. He warned him that there'll be no one to save him. Taram was restrained and taken away, while the president and Seongryong discussed the next steps. The president refused to make a public announcement, saying that it was not a dungeon break, but humans who terrorized the citizens. He asked for Kibong's opinion, who suggested pulling out their roots. The president agreed and vowed to crush whoever was responsible for terrorizing the people and not leave a single one of them alive. Yubin's subordinate teased him in the hospital for appearing to be concerned about Jue. Yui, Kang Hui, and Jue entered the room, surprising Yubin and prompting his subordinate to continue teasing him. Jue inquired about Yubin's health, to which he replied that he was fine. Kang Hui didn't understand the situation and intervened, but Yui stopped him and redirected the conversation. Nevertheless, Yubin got up and announced his plan to go to Hong Kong. At the same time, the president assigned Kibong with a new mission. Seongryong expressed concern about who would defend the mainland, but the president laughed and revealed that a special dungeon management team would be deployed. The appointed special warfare commander will be an army lieutenant general since Kim Kibong is vacant. However, Seongryong expressed concerns, to which the president responded by stating that the appointment has already been approved by the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Ministry of National Defense, and he will take full responsibility for it as the president. He added that although he is not as special as Prime Minister Seongryong, he sees this as a way to help. The president also mentioned that if Kibong ever gets captured abroad and his identity is revealed, Korea will do its best to help him. The president conveyed his appreciation to Kibong for rescuing the citizens, expressing gratitude on behalf of everyone. Jue's birds have confirmed the presence of agents from all over the world outside, indicating that a group of people is monitoring Kibong's next move. Seongryong mentioned that everyone is keeping an eye on their actions, particularly Kibong's plans to travel abroad. She explained that Kibong's arrival may not be well received by other countries since he is a powerful individual. Seongryong speculated that the agents might attempt to obstruct Kibong's entry into the country. Yubin added that they are probably trying to ascertain Kibong's travel schedule. Seongryong noted that Kibong can only travel by plane, as teleportation between countries is not possible. She emphasized the need to create a plan to address this issue. Kibong rose from his seat and proposed a plan. Two cars departed from the compound, which caught the attention of the agents who were keeping tabs on them. One of the agents decided to follow the cars, assuming that it would be challenging to monitor them once they arrived at the airport. However, a car suddenly appeared and obstructed the two cars. Upon closer inspection, the agent discovered that Kibong was not among the passengers. Afterward, the agent requested to search the airport. After some time, the cars continued on their journey. Yui noted that it was not surprising that people were monitoring them. Seongryong acknowledged that if she were in their position, she would have done the same, given their line of work. Kang Hui inquired about Kibong's whereabouts and whether he would be joining them. Jue confirmed that Kibong was indeed going with them. The individuals who were monitoring Kang Hui's group eventually arrived at the airport and were instructed to follow them onto the plane, assuming that Kibong would be traveling with them. However, they received a message stating that Kibong was on the news. Meanwhile, the president and Seongryong discussed the situation and expressed their concerns. Seongryong reassured the president that Kibong would be fine since he is a capable individual. Kibong, on the other hand, was flying to Hong Kong with the intention of destroying hype. Yubin was in Hong Kong and was following two men who turned into an alley. He turned on his interpretation device and was confronted by the men who asked who he was. Yubin stated that he wanted to meet their boss. The men called in reinforcement and surrounded Yubin, mocking him and preparing their weapons. The group attacked Yubin, but he was able to defeat all of them. One man was left with a gun and threatened to shoot. Some of the men that Yubin had knocked down earlier stood back up. The man with the gun ordered his men to attack, but Yubin used his weapon to take out the group and destroy the gun. He was satisfied with the performance of the myth-class weapon and then knocked out the man with the gun. Kibong and his group discussed the possibility of a trap while analyzing pictures of the man they were looking for. The system confirmed that the pictures were taken at the same place and time. Yubin arrived with the captured man, and Jue questioned him about a strange-looking person in his organization who could turn into a monster or something similar. The man suddenly got up from his seat, appearing frightened. The leader of the group was notified about the attack on their men, but they couldn't determine the perpetrator. The leader inquired if any of them were injured and was informed that they all were. The subordinate expressed regret and apologized, but the boss was angry and threatened to destroy whoever was responsible. The boss gathered his men and commanded them to find the ones who attacked them, eagerly looking for a fight. Meanwhile, Kibong and his group were walking when he asked about Yubin's impressive weapon, which Yubin attributed to it being a myth-class weapon. Kang Hui became envious and asked Kibong for one. Before departing for Hong Kong, Jai-yoon presented them with myth-class weapons made from the fire dragon's corpse, customized for each member. Yui asked Seongryong if they were really giving the weapons to them, and Seongryong replied that she couldn't give them items made from taxpayers' blood. Instead, she would lend them the weapons until their mission was over and ask them to be careful not to lose or damage them. Jia-yoon indicated to Kang Hui that the cape was intended for him, but when he attempted to touch it, it repelled him. The system notified Kibong that the cape was a repulsive item. Kang Hui attempted to touch it again, but was met with the same result. In the current moment, Kibong reassured the disappointed Kang Hui that he was already powerful enough without a weapon, which improved his spirits. As the group Yubin had fought earlier engaged in another battle, their senior member ordered them to move aside and faced off against a man who picked up a spear to defend himself. Meanwhile, Kibong's group arrived on the scene and found the defeated group of people. They also noticed a crack in space, which the system revealed to be a trace of an instant dungeon created by someone, much to Kibong's surprise. Kibong touched the portal and successfully entered the dungeon with the system's help, leaving Kang Hui and Yubin behind. The system informed Kibong that its function was limited inside an instant dungeon. Kibong heard an explosion and immediately headed in that direction. When he arrived, a man with a spear questioned Kibong in Chinese about who he was and how he was able to enter the dungeon. The system activated its translation function, and Kibong asked the man who he was, wondering if he was the one who created the instant dungeon. The spearman challenged Kibong to a battle to decide who would answer the questions first. Kibong reluctantly accepted and activated his body enhancement skill, remembering Jia-yoon's warning not to use his combat suit while abroad, as there is a risk of revealing his identity. Meanwhile, Kang Hui was worried about Kibong's disappearance, and Yubin speculated that it might be a trap as the group's reinforcements arrives. The spearman continued to attack Kibong, who effortlessly dodged his attacks. The spearman was impressed with Kibong's skills and unleashed his own skill. The system warned Kibong that it had detected Daystone's energy. Kibong managed to deflect the spearman's attacks, surprising him. Despite this, the spearman continued to attack and threw his spear, but it was also deflected by Kibong. Kibong appeared behind the spearman and sent him flying with a punch. He approached him and asked if he was ready to talk. The spearman, surprised by Kibong's strength, then revealed that his master taught him not to be picky with methods when aiming for victory, citing the art of war and specifically mentioning stratagem 36. Running away. The spearman closed the instant dungeon and vanished, leaving Kibong isolated. The system notified Kibong that the dungeon's door was gone and it would close, but Kibong created his own exit by tearing the dimension. As he emerged from the dungeon, he found himself alone, and the system informed him of a 3-hour time difference between the instant dungeon and reality. On the other hand, Yui and Jue were trailing the man they had captured, and Yui was growing suspicious due to the man's attempts to stall. Yui expressed her concern for Kibong and the others, but Jue reassured her that they were safe with Kibong around. Yui then raised questions about Kibong's identity, noting that he wasn't present during the Great War. Jue agreed and thought if Kibong was around back then fewer people would have died. She then shared her own curiosity about Kibong and his family. Yui then remembered that Kibong's mother was receiving treatment at a hospital, and Jue confirmed that Kibong had searched for his other family members but couldn't find them in the country. Yui inquired if Kibong was able to locate his other family members. Jue disclosed that new information had been received but not yet relayed to Kibong. Suddenly, the two were ambushed by the group of the man they had captured. The man rejoined his group and was questioned if Yui and Jue were the ones responsible for the recent attacks on their group. The man confirmed, but the group leader was puzzled as their report described a long-haired spearman as the attacker. The man proposed that they could be part of the same group. The group closed in on Jue and Yui, and their leader gave orders to capture them and bring them to their boss. Yui drew out her new staff and engaged the group with a powerful chain lightning spell, swiftly defeating multiple attackers. Witnessing his subordinate's defeat, the leader decided to join the fray. Jue offered to assist Yui, but she reassured her that she could handle the leader alone. The leader, infuriated by Yui's confidence, launched an attack. Yui skillfully evaded the leader's attack and confidently declared that she would show him the difference in their equipment. She cast 4 spells simultaneously, merging them into one powerful attack. However, to her surprise, the leader remained conscious despite taking the full brunt of her attack. He cursed Yui for her cockiness and suddenly opened a dungeon, dragging her and Jue inside. Meanwhile, the spearman tended to his injuries from Kibong's earlier attack. He couldn't help but wonder who Kibong was, as it had been a long time since he had encountered someone so challenging. He admitted that Kibong was even stronger than his own master. He then felt an instant dungeon opening and immediately headed out intending to meet his master's enemy. Meanwhile, Yui and Jue found themselves in an unknown location and were uncertain about their surroundings. Yui quickly created a protective barrier to safeguard them and warned Jue against venturing outside due to the potential unknown dangers they might face. Jue expressed her inability to sense any animals nearby and doubted her usefulness in such a situation. However, their attention was soon drawn to their opponent, who had transformed into a giant. The man claimed that they were gods in that place and unleashed a fiery attack against them. Yui was perplexed as she couldn't sense any mana flow from the enemy, yet he was able to use magic effectively. Jue mentioned that something strange was happening in the dungeon, pointing out the lack of insects. Yui acknowledged it but suggested they focus on escaping first before discussing it further. Yui's cast another spell which diffused the fire, however, their opponent remained unaffected, surprising her as she used her full power on the previous attack. Two more giants appeared and joined the battle, making the situation even more dire for Yui and Jue. Meanwhile, outside the instant dungeon, the spearman was rushing towards its location. As he arrived, he noticed signs of a recent battle and wasted no time in entering the dungeon. Kibong ordered the system to search for the whereabouts of his group members. The system located Yubin and Kang Huai's location and also informed Kibong of a unique item that was detected during scanning. The item was made from pure daystone, along with another item that had been processed from a daystone. Furthermore, the man that Kibong had been searching for was also found to be in the same location. He urgently requested the system to show him the exact location without delay. As the three giants continued to relentlessly attack Yui's barrier, she struggled to hold on. She found it strange that her strength seemed to be draining even when she was standing still. Yui couldn't comprehend how the mana flow worked in this place. Even though she had used a powerful spell earlier, she should still be able to maintain a simple barrier. She couldn't help but wonder what kind of place they were in. Jue apologized to Yui for not being able to help. Yui assured her that he could still fight and cast a powerful spell which caused a massive explosion. Yui was drained of much of her energy and fell to her knees, but was surprised to see that the giants were unaffected. As the giants prepared to attack again, a spear suddenly hit one of them, and the spearman arrived, introducing himself as the evil spirit of Shandong. The spearman mocked the giants and evaded their attacks, reminding them that fighting isn't all about size and strength, and that the dungeon they were in originally belonged to his household. With a powerful attack, the spearman effortlessly defeated the giants. Meanwhile, at the location indicated by the system, a group of people under Hype's control were transporting items. The mysterious man was also present, searching for Huang Wun. One of his subordinates reported that the syndicate was busy dealing with some people and assured him that he could handle the task alone. The master emphasized that this task was the final piece of their plan and that no mistakes could be made. The master reminded the subordinate of the consequences of failure by making an example of one of the people carrying the items, who suddenly disintegrated before their eyes. The master then turned around and left through a portal. The subordinate suddenly sensed someone approaching and saw Kibong flying towards him. He also sensed Kibong's formidable strength as he landed in front of him. Kibong confronted the hooded man, demanding to know the whereabouts of the turban-wearing individual. The hooded man just laughed and stated that he was looking for someone he shouldn't be. He then attempted to use magic on Kibong, but to his surprise, Kibong resisted it effortlessly. Kibong sighed and commented that the hooded man was even worse than Park Urim. The hooded man was confused as to why his magic was ineffective against Kibong, and he realized that Kibong was the one who had defeated the Shield Guild's master, known for her skill in deception magic. The hooded man then expressed his curiosity about how Kibong had managed to capture the Shield Guild's master. Upon the hooded man's orders, the people attacked Kibong. However, Kibong grew irritated with their tactics and unleashed Dragon's Fear, breaking the spell and causing the people to flee. The hooded man was puzzled by how a human could possess the ability to use Dragon's Fear. The hooded man laughed and challenged Kibong to try and resist his next attack. The man attempted to attack Kibong with flame magic, but Kibong remained unfazed. The system warned Kibong that his opponent was not synchronized with reality's time and was probably stuck in the tutorial space like him. This information surprised Kibong, and he decided to restrain the man and interrogate him. He activated this body enhancement skill and just kicked the incoming spell, destroying it. The man was surprised, changed his tactics and summoned monsters to surround Kibong. The system alerted Kibong that it could not detect any life force from the monsters, but it could sense the energy of a daystone in them, categorizing them as homunculi. Kibong evaded the monsters' attacks while analyzing them. However, the system informed him that the homunculi might have once been human, as it sensed a craving for peace in their bodies and requested that Kibong put them to rest. After learning that the monsters were once human, Kibong destroyed them in anger and even caused collateral damage to the surrounding building. He made a vow to eradicate every member of Hype. Meanwhile, inside the instant dungeon, the spearman faced off against a member of the syndicate and taunted them about their current weakened state. He demanded to know the whereabouts of the people who came to Shandong. The syndicate member responded to the spearman's question with a laugh and insult, which led to the spearman stabbing him with his spear. The member refused to talk and instead said that his older brother would seek revenge before requesting to be killed. The spearman granted his wish and ended his life. Later, the spearman noticed Jue and Yui and was captivated by Yui's beauty. He asked about her well-being, and she expressed gratitude for his assistance. He introduced himself and asked for her name, then escorted them to the exit without acknowledging Jue. When Kibong interrogated the hooded man and asked for his identity, the man dismissed him as an insignificant bug and activated his skill, warning Kibong not to be too arrogant. The hooded man created an instant dungeon and forcefully pulled Kibong inside. Kibong was informed by the system that his powers were limited inside the dungeon. He noticed that the man possessed the same ability as the spearman and dodged a fire spell attack. The hooded man then boasted about his long and noble life in a place that Kibong could not understand and removed his hood, revealing his face. Kibong inquired if the man was referring to the tutorial space and asked how long he had been trapped there. The man grinned and replied that it had been 200 years without any signs of life or tutorial monsters. He explained that living alone in a void was a horrific experience that Kibong, who had not yet lived for 100 years, would never comprehend. However, Kibong appeared uninterested in his story. Enraged by Kibong's seemingly indifferent expression, the man summoned multiple meteors to rain down upon Kibong. However, Kibong mocked him, calling him a child despite his supposed 200 years of suffering. Kibong was puzzled when the meteors didn't hit him, but the meteors transformed into monsters upon reaching the ground. The man boasted that these monsters were his legion and ordered them to attack Kibong. However, Kibong effortlessly destroyed the oncoming monsters with a simple punch and continued to overpower the remaining ones with ease. Undeterred, the man remained calm and waved his wand, causing the pieces of the monsters to surround Kibong and explode. The man comments that Kibong's fighting was impressive for a human, but not enough to defeat his legion, before turning to leave the dungeon. The man sensed something and turned around, then saw that Kibong was still standing. He assumed that Kibong was badly injured. However, unknown to him, Kibong only sustained minimal damage and mostly missing clothes. Kibong was relieved that his pants were spared, though the system expressed regret about the situation. Undeterred, the man created a massive monster to end the fight, but Kibong swiftly destroyed it, leaving his opponent terrified. Meanwhile, Kang Hui located where Yui and Jue disappeared, and Yubin expressed worry, prompting Kang Hui to tease him about Jue. Kang Hui caught a whiff of something unpleasant and went on guard. It was Huang Wun, the boss of the syndicate and a member of Hype, who immediately interrogated Yubin about attacking his people. Yubin saw an opportunity to attack, but Huang Wun blocked it, mocking him for a cowardly attempt. Huang Wun blamed Yubin for failing to meet the elder and vowed to make him pay. Upon noticing the wound inflicted by Yubin's attack, Huang Wun expressed surprise upon seeing Yubin's weapon, which he had never heard of despite his extensive experience with weapons. Yubin responded by saying that the weapon was useful. Huang Wun encouraged Yubin's greed for good weapons and declared that Yubin could use it to pay his debt. Kang Hui expressed his frustration towards Huang Wun, reminding him that they had dealt with his men earlier. However, Huang Wun just found him amusing and referred to him as a puppy. This infuriated Kang Hui, and he launched an attack. Huang Wun's men tried to intervene, but Kang Hui easily defeated them. Huang Wun was taken aback by the new power displayed by Kang Hui, which he had never witnessed before. Huang Wun inquired whether Kang Hui's power was comparable to martial arts energy, and Kang Hui affirmed it. Afterward, Huang Wun instructed his subordinates to deal with Kang Hui while he confronted Yubin, demanding him to surrender his weapon in exchange for sparing his life. However, Yubin cautioned him against being too greedy as it could lead to a shortened life. They then both charged forward to start the battle. The unidentified man kept summoning monsters from the meteors and claimed to be unbeatable in that space. Kibong was irritated and effortlessly destroyed the monsters around him, leaving the man bewildered. He boasted that no one could use their power effectively in that space except for him, as he was the creator. After hearing the man, Kibong understood why his attack earlier was weaker than normal. The man recognized Kibong's power and resorted to his final move, injuring himself and spilling his blood, causing the ground to split, revealing the Fire Spirit King with an 18-star dungeon rank. However, Kibong was unimpressed by the creature's size, remarking that he expected something as big as a planet. The Spirit King attacked Kibong, causing a massive explosion. The man laughed and mocked Kibong, but Kibong managed to withstand the flames and blocked the Spirit King's large sword. Kibong then expressed his disappointment, stating that he thought he was fighting an 18-star creature, but he couldn't feel any significant difference between the Spirit King and a fire dragon. Kibong even felt warm and comfortable, almost falling asleep during the battle, which infuriated the Spirit King when compared to a mere lizard. The Spirit King unleashed a stronger flame, but Kibong remained unscathed. In response, Kibong launched an attack, which the Spirit King blocked, causing damage to the man. The man was surprised, exclaiming that it was impossible for the Spirit King to lose ground despite using his life force. He worried that if the fight continued, he might die first. Kibong relentlessly attacked the Spirit King, who was being pushed back with every strike. The Spirit King expressed surprise at Kibong's strength and dared to question how a mere human could harm him, the mighty Fire Spirit King. Kibong responded with a sarcastic remark, questioning the idea of a king in the modern era. The man was filled with terror and pleaded with the Spirit King to cease its attack, attempting to cancel the summoning. Unfortunately, the Spirit King refused to comply. According to the system, the Spirit King was absorbing the life force in their vicinity, and Kibong was resisting its life-draining effects. As a result, the Spirit King unleashed the energy it had absorbed, creating an explosion. However, Kibong retaliated with a strike that shattered the Spirit King's body, leaving the man in despair. He wondered why he had lost, having persevered through years of hellish conditions. The man stared at the heap of Kibong's remains and realized that Kibong had spent a longer time in the tutorial area than he had, just before passing away. The dungeon then instantly closed and they were transported back to reality. The system notified Kibong of an unidentified object, and he stumbled upon a container and uncovered a humanoid figure, prompting him to question if it was a human. After examining it, the system revealed that it was a dungeon humanoid and that he could use it. Kibong understood that the system will transfer itself to the humanoid figure. After receiving Kibong's permission, the system proceeded to connect to the dungeon humanoid and assumed a form based on Kibong's memory, resembling his little sister Bingsun. Kibong was moved by the resemblance and addressed the humanoid as Bingsun, feeling emotional. The system asks for permission to set the name of the dungeon humanoid it has discovered as Bingsun, the same name as Kibong's sister. Kibong realizes that the system has based the humanoid's appearance on his memory of his sister and tells the system to get rid of it quickly. The system explains that it creates an image that the user is most familiar with and wants to see, but Kibong insists on changing it. The system accepts his order and transforms the humanoid into a random look. The system took the form of a white-haired woman. During the battle between Yubin and Huang Wun, Yubin's attacks proved to be ineffective against his opponent, who was determined to get Yubin's weapons. Yubin realized that this was his strongest opponent yet and decided to charge forward, using one of his swords as bait. Huang Wun remained undeterred and expressed his disappointment at having to kill a hero with his own hands. After nullifying Yubin's attack, Huang Wun hit him hard, causing him to crash onto the ground. Witnessing Yubin's injury, Kang Hui attempted to intervene but was also sent flying by Huang Wun. When Huang Wun looked back, he saw that Kang Hui had already taken care of his men. Despite this, Huang Wun continued to mock Kang Hui. With the evil spirit's assistance, Yui's group managed to exit the dungeon. Jue expressed her gratitude and asked about the instant dungeon, but the evil spirit refused to reveal any details as it was a family secret. Yui then mentioned that her power was drained more quickly than usual in the instant dungeon, to which the evil spirit confirmed that it was indeed a special place. Jue became annoyed when the man only responded to Yui's question and ignored hers. Yui asked the evil spirit about the concept of an instant dungeon and requested a detailed explanation. The evil spirit hesitated at first, stating that it was a secret of their family. However, he eventually revealed that only those who knew the secret could use their strength properly in that space, allowing them to unleash divine power and become stronger. He explained that this power was the pride of their family and had helped him save many people during the Great War. Jue raises concern about the attacker's ability to use the power of the instant dungeon, despite not being part of the evil spirit's family. The evil spirit reveals that they stole the family's secret book and killed his family to obtain the knowledge. Yui apologizes for prying, but the evil spirit reassures her that it's alright. The taming bracelet made from the fire dragon that Jue wears lit up, indicating the presence of nearby monsters. Confused, she questioned if someone was around them that was causing the strong reaction. Kang Wai changed into his monster form and launched an attack, pushing Huang Wun back. Kang Wai ridiculed Huang Wun for his earlier arrogance. In the midst of the fight, Huang Wun's weapons were destroyed and he suffered injuries. Huang Wun, still laughing, asked if Kang Wai was an absolute monster. Kang Wai, angry at Huang Wun's amusement, asked if he would still be able to laugh if Kang Wai were to remove his liver. Huang Wun launched an attack on Kang Wai, who tried to counter by thrusting his nails into his body. But Huang Wun swiftly opened an instant dungeon, bringing both of them inside. He chuckled, realizing his close call, and Kang Wai was left bewildered by what had happened. He wondered if Huang Wun had used any body-hardening skills to make himself impervious to his attack. As Kang Wai evaded Huang Wun's attack, he observed that his opponent's power and agility had increased within the dungeon. Huang Wun then questioned Kang Wai about the whereabouts of his other tails. Yubin regained consciousness and was taken aback by Kang Wai's transformed state as he faced off against their opponent. Huang Wun suggested that Kang Wai's strength came from his tail. In response, Kang Wai charged forward and declared that his power was from Shintaburi, not from the land they were in. Huang Wun's attack caused Kang Wai to be pushed back, and he taunted Kang Wai by questioning his confidence in his own strength despite the power reduction in the instant dungeon. After being injured, Huang Wun discovered that Kang Wai's power source was his tail, leading him to assume that Kang Wai was a divine beast. At the same time, Kibong was examining the new form of the system and realized that the voice he had been hearing for 3,000 years had been produced by the system from his head. Upon inquiry, the system confirmed that the dungeon humanoid was fully synchronized. While lost in thought, Kibong noticed that the system was consuming the daystones from the crate. The system explained that she required a significant amount of energy to transfer into the body. Kibong immediately ordered her to stop and asked her to put down the stones. The system cried and explained that there were more daystones on the crate. Eventually, Kibong relented and allowed her to eat 3 of them. The system was excited, and Kibong recognized her voice. He wondered why Hype would create a dungeon humanoid and what their plans were. After consuming the daystones, the system expressed her contentment. Kibong inquired about her plans, whether she intended to stay in the body or return to his mind. The system responded that returning was not currently possible and affirmed that she was with him constantly. Kibong contemplated how he would clarify the situation to the rest of the group. Despite his efforts, Kang Wai was being overpowered by Huang Wun. His attempts to fight back were futile as his nails were destroyed. Yubin, who rushed to help, was also powerless to stop Huang Wun. Huang Wun was preparing to finish off Kang Wai when suddenly Kang Wai's tail returned and pushed Huang Wun back. Just then, a portal opened and Yui's group appeared on the scene. Evil Spirit initially mistook Kang Wai for a dungeon monster and acted to protect Yui, but she noticed that Yubin was injured and ran over to him. Evil Spirit became jealous and aimed his spear at Yubin. Yui intervened and clarified that Yubin wasn't their enemy, while Yubin drew his sword and pointed it at Evil Spirit. Yui intervened and prevented Yubin and Evil Spirit from fighting. Kang Wai approached Jue, and she stated that she had been hearing Kang Wai's voice in her head since the taming bracelet shone and led them to the instant dungeon entrance. Kang Wai thanked her for restoring his lost strength and asked for her help. Jue agreed to assist him. Huang Wun stood up and declared that he was the ruler of the land while taunting Kang Wai for his rebellious behavior. However, he then noticed the presence of Evil Spirit, who in turn remembered how Huang Wun had killed his grandfather. The system asks Kibong if she can remain in her current form, to which he agrees. The system then asks for a name, but Kibong only suggests System. Finding it awkward for a person's name, he thinks of a new name and suggests Sisu. The system likes it and decides to use it. After Kibong and Sisu had agreed on her new name, Sisu noticed that Kibong's clothes were destroyed and fixed them. She was concerned that he might be mistaken for a pervert walking around without one. Kibong was impressed by her ability. She explained that it was not real material, but refracting of light. Sisu explained that she could create real substances if she consumed more daystone. She then revealed that she knew the location of the others. Evil Spirit launched an attack on Huang Wun, but his attacks were easily blocked. He expressed that he had spent a long time searching for Huang Wun across the continent. However, Huang Wun was not pleased with being found by someone like Evil Spirit. Despite this, Evil Spirit vowed to kill him. After parrying Evil Spirit's spear, Huang Wun struck him with a knee to the body and flung him away. He boasted about how many had tried and failed to kill him and mocked Evil Spirit's family, which enraged him. However, evil spirit's attacks were ineffective against Huang Wun, who feared that it would be disadvantageous if Kang Huai joined the fight, so he decided to end it quickly and landed a heavy blow on evil spirit. Jue assisted Kang Huai in recovering 4 of his tails, and Kang Huai expressed his gratitude towards her for helping him. He mentioned that his powers were still unstable but had returned thanks to her help. Jue promised to support him, and Kang Huai assured her that his identity had not changed, even though his appearance had. He encouraged her to continue doing what she always did. The man wearing a turban was seen conversing with a glowing orb. He received news that one of his subordinates had been killed and assumed Kibong was responsible. The orb confirmed his suspicion and added that Kibong might be stronger than him. The turban man was surprised and questioned how Kibong could become so powerful if he was just a human. The orb revealed that Kibong possessed a fragment of itself that was lost a long time ago. The turban man then realized that the solution to his quest for power was to merge with the orb. He regretted almost taking the long way around and pitying Kibong as a lowly being. The orb warns the turban-wearing man that his decision will revitalize every dungeon on the planet but will ultimately lead to world destruction. The man laughs and declares that the god of the new world must rise from the ashes of the old. The orb accepts his decision. The man proceeded to absorb the orb. In Japan, a group of children was preparing to enter a dungeon with some feeling scared. The teacher assured them that the dungeon was cleared and safe. The players guarding the entrance were also not worried until the entrance suddenly lit up. They warned the teacher to get away, but it was too late and monsters began to appear. This was happening in different parts of the world, including Korea, where Seongryong had already killed some of the monsters. She found it strange that there were no signs of dungeons opening. The president then called on all guilds to save as many civilians as possible and eliminate all of the monsters. Huang Wun was still overpowering evil spirit, dealing multiple heavy blows. Believing that evil spirit was defeated, Huang Wun shifted his focus to finding Kang Huai. However, to his surprise, evil spirit managed to get back up despite the beating he received. Huang Wun scoffed, thinking that if he had stayed down, he could have survived, but now he would suffer the same miserable fate as his grandfather. Fueled by rage, evil spirit attempted to strike back, but Huang Wun effortlessly beat him and sent him crashing onto the ground. Just then, Kang Huai appeared on the scene and declared that he would take over. He launched a sudden attack on Huang Wun, who managed to block it, but sensed that Kang Huai's powers had returned. Huang Wun decided to unleash his full power, causing him to be covered in a full body armor. Evil spirit, who managed to stand up, was shocked to see Huang Wun also stole their family's greatest martial art. Huang Wun, unimpressed, responded by saying that evil spirit was tenacious and should just go and meet his grandfather. Kang Huai politely asked Jue for her patience and assistance once more. Jue used her bracelet to help Kang Huai recover one more of his tails. Huang Wun claimed that only he and the spear-wielding kid should be able to utilize their abilities, and he threatened to harm Kang Huai to learn how he was able to do so. Kang Huai responded by calling him a despicable individual and declared that he would have to eliminate him. The two combatants clashed fiercely, with neither gaining a clear advantage. However, Jue began to feel her power draining, causing Yubin and Yui to worry. Kang Huai also sensed this and knew that if the battle continued, Jue would be in danger. He proposed ending the fight, stating that it would be boring to prolong it. Huang Wun agreed, also wanting to conclude the battle quickly. After Huang Wun attacked, Kang Huai countered and gravely wounded him. Kang Huai then stated that true strength cannot be gained with stolen power and told him to die like a worm. Huang Wun responded by laughing and calling Kang Huai a puppy who's trying to look cool. Kang Huai readied himself to strike the finishing blow, but evil spirit intervened and pleaded to be the one to end Huang Wun to get his revenge. In exchange, he offered to sacrifice his life for Kang Huai's sake in the future. Kang Huai stepped back and responded that he had no interest in evil spirit's life and that he could do as he pleased. Evil spirit rose to his feet and vowed to kill Huang Wun once more in the afterlife before delivering the final blow. After the battle, Kang Huai expressed his gratitude to Jue for her assistance and apologized for the trouble he caused before returning to his human form. Evil spirit thanked the group for resolving his family's grudges and closed the instant dungeon. Upon returning to the outside world, Kang Huai was his usual cheerful self, while Yui and Jue expressed their preference for him in his human form. As they were leaving, they spotted some monsters in the vicinity. Jue's phone rang, and it was Seongryong urging everyone to return as dungeon breaks were happening globally. She asked if they knew the reason behind it, but Jue was uncertain. Seongri-young inquired about Kibong, and Ju-ae reassured her that there was no reason to be concerned. Kibong was already in the midst of destroying monsters in the area when Sisu informed him that she had found the others. He was surprised to learn that she could fly, but she explained that she couldn't fly as fast as him. Sisu showed him their location, but she then noticed that a 6- and 7-star monsters were approaching them. Kibong immediately activated his skill and told Sisu to hold on tight as he rushed to their location. The group, including Yui, continued to fight the never-ending swarm of monsters, while Kang Hwai requested for more time to absorb energy from the earth to transform once again. As he was doing so, Kibong suddenly appeared on the scene, much to the relief of the others. However, Kang Hwai was puzzled when he saw Sisu and asked for her identity. Kibong assured Kang Hwai that he will explain later and asked Sisu if she can protect everyone. Sisu confidently replied that she can handle it and told Kibong to leave it to her. A colossal monster emerged, and Sisu activated total defense to encase the area in a shield. Kibong took care of the monsters in their vicinity before rejoining the group. He was puzzled to see Evil Spirit there and asked how he came to be with them. Evil Spirit introduced himself but began rambling, prompting Yui to interject and clarify that they had fought together during the battle. Yui then asked about Sisu, to which she introduced herself as a humanoid who would be with Kibong forever. Everyone was speechless while Kang Hwai appeared jealous. Kibong clarified that Sisu was someone they had known for a long time. Kibong then asked Ju-ae about their next move, acknowledging the difficulty in finding the hype with the current situation in Hong Kong. She agreed and told him that she received call from their home country, ordering everyone to return home. Yubin expressed doubt that they would be able to make it home safely with monsters lurking everywhere. Ju-ae suggested that she would search for available flights, and if none were available, they would have to resort to opening the gate. Yui expressed concern, citing that teleportation between countries is forbidden. Ju-ae explained that in a code black situation, it would be permissible. Yui raised another concern, pointing out that only a few top rankers are capable of using teleportation magic. Ju-ae acknowledged that this was indeed a major problem. Sisu surprised everyone by revealing that she could use teleportation. Meanwhile, in Korea, a prison was being attacked by monsters, and the players guarding it were struggling. They assumed that HQ was also under attack as they hadn't received any news from them. They were worried that if the situation continued, the prisoners, who were more dangerous than the monsters, could escape. After the players were defeated, they crashed into a cell where Taram and other SHIELD members were being held. Just as a monster was about to finish off one of the players, Taram suddenly killed it. The player, frightened by Taram's presence, drew his gun and fired, thinking Taram was going to harm him. However, Taram was focused on the monsters behind him, and the bullets had no effect. After dispatching the monsters, Taram returned to his corner looking lost. Meanwhile, Seongri-young received news of the prison attack and asked about Taram's status. The subordinate reports that the restraints on Park Taram were removed, but they are unsure why. Seongri-young decided to personally head to the prison and teleported with her team to the scene. Upon arrival, she ordered her team to report any findings on SHIELD Guild members immediately. While walking around the area, Seongri-young noticed the corpses of monsters and wondered who was capable of such a feat, as the guards were not strong enough. A player who was saved by Taram pointed out where he was, and Seongri-young saw Taram killing monsters in the vicinity. After Taram had finished, he returned to his cell, and Seongri-young was confused by his behavior, as he had many opportunities to escape. Seongri-young called out to Taram, but he appeared unfocused. Meanwhile, Yui confirmed with Sisu about her ability to use teleportation, and Sisu confirmed that she could do it easily. As Sisu began to activate the teleportation, Ju-ae asked Kibong if he had found the man they were looking for. Kibong responded that he had a feeling the man was responsible for the situation and that he needed to catch him. Ju-ae realized that if Kibong found out about the attack on Korea, he would want to return, which was a big problem. Sisu opened a portal. While Kibong thought that it would be best if others returned to Korea while he and Sisu search for the Turban Man. However, he was shocked to see that Korea was also under attack by the monsters and worried about his mother's safety. Ju-ae tried to assure him that the government was protecting his mother, but Kibong's demeanor changed and he abruptly told her to shut up. Ju-ae was frightened while Kibong announced that they would head to Korea. However, Sisu closed the portal, which made Kibong angry. Sisu asked Kibong where he wanted to go, and he replied that she didn't listen to the conversation. Sisu explained that Kibong couldn't go back to Korea at the moment. Afterwards, Sisu calculated the probability of Kibong's mother surviving if he returned to Korea. She determined that there was a 99% chance of survival within the next 6 months, a 50% chance within the next 12 months, and only a 3% chance within the next 36 months. However, Sisu also mentioned that if Kibong pursued and eliminated the man responsible for the situation, his mother's lifespan would be restored to a natural length. Sisu explained to Kibong that the current dungeon break was unlike previous ones and cannot be solved by simply killing a few monsters. The only way to end it is to eliminate the cause, the Turban Man. She warned that even if they stopped the monsters from reaching Kibong's mother, they could still infiltrate essential facilities like the power plant, leading to a power outage and water shortage. Sisu reopened the portal, indicating that the decision was ultimately Kibong's to make. After Kibong destroyed the giant monster, he instructed his team to protect his mother until he comes back. Kibong then left, followed by Sisu. Seongryong asked Taram why he didn't try to escape, and he replied that they needed to face their punishment. Taram believed that atoning for his sister's actions was the only shred of dignity he had left. Seongryong criticized him for his foolishness, stating that he couldn't erase his sister's sins, but he could do good by rescuing people, as he did in the Great War. After their conversation, Seongryong left, leaving Taram behind. Despite his team's concern, she hoped that Taram would regain his former glory as South Korea's invincible steel shield, the Guardian, part Taram. Taram, on the other hand, continued to fight the monsters and ultimately freed the shield members and intends to follow Seongryong's advice. In the city, the governor reassured the citizens that everything was under control and they cheered. However, they didn't know that the Turban Man, responsible for the chaos, was among them. A player on guard noticed the man and found him suspicious, but when the other player looked, his vision blurred and he couldn't move. The Turban Man said that only the first player was allowed to see him and that a new god was coming, with the first player as the witness. The first player who noticed the Turban Man resisted when he was told that he only needs one eye and his tongue won't be necessary to be a witness. The player suddenly coughed up blood and was unable to call for help as the Turban Man's voice continued to ring in his ears. Meanwhile, the governor continued his speech, but suddenly the stage exploded, causing chaos. The players in the area were confused as they couldn't see any monsters. Suddenly, the Turban Man flew into the air and caused a tornado of energy. The Turban Man proclaimed that the human era was coming to an end and the snipers were ordered to shoot him. However, their attacks were ineffective and the Turban Man retaliated by attacking one of the snipers. The other players on the ground tried to attack, but they were instantly vaporized by the Turban Man. The Turban Man declared that a new world would be born from the ashes. Multiple monsters appeared, terrifying the players. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, Sisu thought that Kibong was angry with her for stopping him from returning to Korea. However, Kibong reassured her that he understood and asked her to be quiet. Sisu then informed him that she had already located the Turban Man and they headed to the location. On the way, she told him about obstructions, but Kibong destroyed the monsters and continued. Sisu then sensed a large-scale dungeon break in Seoul, but Kibong told her that she didn't need to tell him everything. Sisu told him not to worry and assured Kibong that humans were successfully defending themselves. They arrived at a destroyed city where the Turban Man was at. Sisu attempted to search the area but was unsuccessful due to obstructions, so Kibong decided to draw the enemy out by attacking and killing the monsters in the area. He hoped that by destroying all the monsters, the Turban Man would eventually reveal himself. In Seoul, a group of players and civilians were taking refuge from the monsters and a hooded man was among them, drinking and finding the child noisy. The child asked if he was scared, to which the hooded man replied that he remembers when these situations were normal. The child asked if he was talking about the Great War and if he was a hero too. Beat Cheol, a former member of the Shield Guild, remembered his past experiences with Kim Kibong, but he was now a criminal on the run. Monsters suddenly appeared and surrounded them, attacking the players and civilians. The players retaliated, attempting to protect the civilians and buy time for them to escape. A father and child were being hunted by the monsters, but Beat Cheol arrived in time to save them. Despite the child calling him a hero, Beat Cheol felt guilty for the actions of the Shield Guild. As more monsters appeared, Beat Cheol's pride as one of the firsts who defended the world during the Great War prompted him to take action and fight back. Beat Cheol defeated monsters and the child admired him, but Beat Cheol advised the child to aim higher than him and become a real hero. Beat Cheol turns to leave and saw Kibong's team, whom he had beaten before. Jeung recognized Beat Cheol who was leaving, he called out to him and expressed his grudge from their past encounter. Beat Cheol apologized for his past actions and clarified that he had no plans of getting caught. The team laughed at his words. Suddenly, a boss monster appeared, which Beak Cheel recognized as the Bloody Loctor. He warned the team about its strength and told them to run away, but they mocked him. Despite this, the team attacked the monster and surprised Beak Cheel with their strength. They explained that they awakened to survive, just like him during the Great War. After defeating the monster, they set up a beacon to lure more monsters to them. Beak Cheel was worried and tried to warn them, but he stopped when he saw Seongryong and the other players arrive. Seongryong stated that they will be blocking the monsters there and ordered them to kill all the monsters. Players charged towards the monsters, while Yui led the mage team and fired spells onto the monsters. Meanwhile, the shield also charged forward on Taram's orders. Juung approached Beak Cheel, urging him to go back to the shield group. Taram greeted him, then gave him a uniform and stated that vacation is over and to join them quickly. An 8-star boss monster, the Black Flame Dragon, appeared, but it was instantly destroyed by Kibong. Suddenly, a hole appeared in the sky. Sisu warned that the earth was changing into the world of the dungeon, and if that happened, that would start to erode the earth. Kibong asked what that was, but Sisu explained that it was difficult to explain with proper terms. Kibong declared that he could just destroy everything and anything, regardless. Sisu requested to eat the daystone dropped by the monster, and Kibong granted it. After eating, she pointed in a direction and felt a presence there. Upon arrival, Kibong felt a sense of familiarity. Sisu explained that the area was similar to the dungeon tutorial, as the dungeonization had already started. Humanoid monsters appeared and attacked, but they were killed upon touching Sisu's shield. Yubin continued to kill monsters, while Yui and the others moved forward. Jue became worried as they encountered more and more monsters, but Evil Spirit promised to protect Yui with his life, which comforted her. They finally arrived at the hospital where Kibong's mother was, and the soldiers there were relieved to see them. The soldiers told them that there was only one patient left inside, and they planned to retreat with the patient. However, Jae-yoon stopped them, saying that they couldn't move Kibong's mother because they couldn't take her off life support. She suggested that they defend the hospital no matter what happens. The soldiers expressed doubt due to the seemingly endless number of monsters around them. However, Jue insisted that they came precisely for this reason. She vowed to protect Kibong's mother at all costs, even if it meant sacrificing their own lives. For Kibong, it was the least they could do. Kibong grew increasingly frustrated as he killed wave after wave of monsters, feeling confident that they were no match for him. However, his attention was drawn to a group of people who had injected themselves with an item, turning them into monsters. Kibong made the decision to quickly kill them, despite Sisu's reminder that they were once human. Kibong reasoned that their humanity was precisely the reason they needed to be dealt with swiftly. Kibong punched and destroyed a group of monsters and asked Sisu how long they had been in that place. He was surprised to hear that it had been 16 days, as time in that place was slower than outside. Sisu pointed in a direction, saying that all obstructions were gone. The turban man was waiting for Kibong and asked about his identity. The orb in his eyes answered that Kibong was a product of error, created from the errors of a crack in the dimension. The turban man asked what that meant, and the orb replied that it would show him firsthand. The turban man witnessed Kibong's experiences within the tutorial space and his escape. He expressed surprise and disbelief that the orb had caused the error. The orb responded, claiming to be truthful and never having lied. The turban man intended to give Kibong a gift and then opened a crack where Kibong's mother was seen. He then ate a day's stone and remarked that if the orb was truly honest, then he was one of desperation. He doubted that humans could handle the current situation without Kibong. Kang Hui's team was successfully destroying the endless monsters, which made Jae-yoon feel relieved. Jue acknowledged the team's strength and experience, stating that they had acquired it after returning from overseas. Evil Spirit appeared and was asked by Jue if he needed to visit his hometown, but he said it was unnecessary as he was here to protect Yui, his fiancée. Yui was surprised to hear this. Jue then mentioned that they didn't need to worry about the hospital as they have cleared the nearby areas and could rest until Kibong returned. An explosion occurred in the distance, causing multiple 7 to 8-star monsters to appear and terrify the group. As night fell, Jue and Yui stood guard, and Yui asked about Kibong's mother's illness. Jue explained that Kibong's mother was hurt before his eyes, and although her stab wound was treated, she ended up with dungeon cancer, a disease with a 100% fatality rate. Jue mentioned a promising skill at the capital hospital that they needed to guard the hospital for. Jue was intrigued as to why the monsters had not launched an attack yet. Meanwhile, Yubin and Evil Spirit were on a scouting mission. As they scouted the area, Yuban observed that the monsters were in close proximity to the hospital and expressed concern for their safety. They spotted a six-star monster conducting surveillance and wondered who was orchestrating the monster's movements. Suddenly, the monsters noticed them and attacked, but Yuban and Evil Spirit fought back. Yuban insisted that they gather intelligence before retreating. After attacking the monster, Evil Spirit took it into the instant dungeon, while Yuban managed to kill the monster he was fighting. When Evil Spirit returned, he boasted about how easy it was to defeat the six-star monster. They continued to approach the gathering place of the monsters, and Yuban was shocked by their number and strength. He also spotted a humanoid monster at the center, who suddenly opened its eyes and stared directly at him. Instantly, the humanoid monster appeared behind Yuban, startling even Evil Spirit. Yuban warned his companion to dodge, but it was too late as Evil Spirit was struck and sent flying. The monster then turned its attention back to Yuban, warning him of their impending doom. While Kibong and Sisu were talking, Kibong suddenly felt a presence and called out to someone. The turban man appeared, much to Sisu's surprise, since she didn't sense anyone coming. Orb called Sisu the fragment and accused Kibong of being an arrogant fool for stealing his item without permission. Sisu warned Kibong about the eye, and he advanced towards the turban man, intending to end the fight quickly. The turban man summoned 4 10-star monsters to surround Kibong and called him arrogant. He warned Kibong that if he didn't hurry, everything he cared about might disappear. The turban man then stated that even if only one of the 4 10-star monsters was defeated, human extinction was inevitable. He encouraged Kibong to do his best to block them, as he had piqued the turban man's interest. He then told Kibong to prepare to face endless despair. Kibong activated his skill and questioned the turban man's level, not intimidated by the 4 10-star monsters surrounding him. Meanwhile, Yuban and Evil Spirit returned to the hospital and updated Yui on their encounter with the monsters. Yuban asked about Kang Huai's progress, and Jue informed them that he still needed more time to absorb energy. Yuban suggested contacting the Prime Minister and requesting government assistance, as they were facing a powerful enemy. Jue had already called for Seongryong's support, but they were preoccupied with dealing with the monsters. They advised Jue and Yuban to hold on for a week before promising to come over and help. Jue and Yuban were uncertain if they could endure for that long. Meanwhile, Kang Huai was still absorbing energy and sensed that the monsters were preparing to attack. The one-eyed monster had received orders to eliminate all humans. Kibong fought against the monsters, with Sisu offering to help. However, the turban man approached Sisu, and the orb absorbed her, leaving Kibong surprised. The turban man commented that he found Kibong's past amusing after seeing it through the tool. He then asked if Kibong could face the monsters without the tool. Kibong was then hit by the monster but remained unaffected. Kibong replied that he didn't know what tool the turban man was referring to and that it seemed like the tool didn't show his entire past. He expressed surprise that the turban man thought this would be enough to stop him. Kibong pulled off one of the monster's arms, enraging it, but he managed to destroy it with a powerful attack. He then asked about Sisu's whereabouts. Sisu woke up in the tutorial space and was talking to the orb. The orb explained that they were once part of the same being and that he had made humans discover the Daystone to spread the Earth's dungeon energy. Sisu was shaken by this revelation and was asked to come back and complete the orb. A black substance covered Sisu. The turban man addressed her and belittled her as a tool. Kibong demanded to know where Sisu was, but the turban man replied that she had died and explained that she was once a part of his tool and has returned to where she came from. Kibong didn't believe the turban man's words and believed Sisu wouldn't die so easily. Sisu managed to escape from the orb's grasp after some time. The orb was questioning Sisu's rejection and trying to persuade her to become one with him again. However, Sisu was hesitant and found the idea of merging with the orb repulsive. The orb expressed disappointment and revealed that he had predicted this outcome, but he still intended to absorb Sisu by force. The black substance was used by the orb to attack Sisu, but she wasn't planning to get captured and prepared to fight. Kibong managed to destroy the monster, but its instant regeneration ability was a challenge. The turban man laughed and ridiculed Kibong, asking how long it would take for him to defeat the monsters and protect the world. With a powerful attack that could be seen from space, Kibong vaporized the monsters. He then directed his attention towards the turban man and confidently replied, "Right now." Jue received a warning from her eagle that the monsters were approaching, and they soon heard their arrival. Yuban swiftly took action and defeated the monsters in front of them, while Evil Spirit used an instant dungeon to trap and defeat the monsters. After emerging from the dungeon, Evil Spirit was surprised that Yubin had already finished killing the monsters. The two then continued their competition for strength. Meanwhile, Yui used her spells to destroy the monsters, and Jue engaged in a battle with a monster with the help of her friends. Yubin kept fighting the monsters, but he was concerned about the one-eyed monster's impending arrival. He wanted to eliminate as many monsters as possible before it arrived. Suddenly, he sensed something and turned around to see the one-eyed monster already there. The monster spoke, saying that in the face of overwhelming power, Yubin's existence was useless. Yubin chose to take the initiative and attacked, but to his surprise, One Eye was already behind him. One Eye then spoke, revealing that he had been observing humans from another dimension and recognized Yubin as an S-class fighter. However, One Eye expressed disappointment in Yubin's decision to attack, claiming that his best move would have been to die without pain, since he was unable to distinguish the difference in skill between them. One Eye expressed pity for the top-ranked humans for their inability to comprehend their inferiority in the face of overwhelming power. One Eye attempted to grab Yubin, but Kang Hui appeared and stopped him. Kang Hui then remarked that One Eye was still a child who lacked understanding and would eventually come to learn about humanity's amazing resilience. One Eye asked Kang Hui why a monster was siding with humans, but Kang Hui did not respond. One Eye then attacked Kang Hui with a black flame. Kang Hui confidently brushes off One Eye's attack, claiming that it was nothing compared to the fire dragon's flame. He then proceeds to attack and push One Eye back while expressing excitement about hunting an 8-star without Kim Kibong. Kang Hui admits that he refrained from getting involved with humans during the fire dragon period and only defended them, but now he plans to show off his full power. Yubin watched as Kang Hui and One Eye clashed multiple times, feeling helpless. However, Evil Spirit urged him to take care of the remaining monsters while Kang Hui handled One Eye. Yubin then helped defend the hospital with his comrades. Later on, Kibong confronted the turban man who claimed to be the god of the world and attacked Kibong with his left eye. Kibong dodged the attack and struck the turban man from behind. After crashing into several buildings, the man was followed by another attack from Kibong, which sent him crashing into the ground. The turban man knelt down in disbelief as Kibong tried to finish him off. However, suddenly the man lit up and a black substance started to leak out of his left eye. Kibong recognized the substance as the same one that had swallowed Sisu. The man was engulfed by the substance, causing him to transform into a monster that was possessed by the orb. The orb expressed satisfaction that its plan, which had taken 3,000 years, had finally come to fruition. In the ongoing fight, Kang Hui and One Eye continued to exchange blows. Although Kang Hui managed to injure One Eye, the monster regenerated quickly. One Eye then initiated the second round of their battle and landed a powerful attack, sending Kang Hui flying. Seeing this, Jue came to Kang Hui's aid and he asked for her support. With Yue's assistance, Kang Hui's power increased and he counter-attacked One Eye, but the monster easily deflected his attacks. One Eye taunted Kang Hui, asking if he was hoping for a miracle. Yubin joins the battle against One Eye, attempting to strike the monster with his sword, but misses narrowly. One Eye questions why Yubin, an underling, would intervene. Yubin responds that he has already taken care of One Eye's underlings. The others also came to Kang Hui's side and stated that round 3 had started. Kibong was left confused after hearing about the orb's 3,000-year plan. The orb mocked Kibong's belief that something made by it could contain an error, and Kibong realized that his 3,000 years spent locked up in the tutorial was all part of the orb's plan. The orb explained that it needed an irregular to break the rules of the world and descend into it, and the clone it had grown for 3,000 years was the first puzzle for its descent. Kibong was just a byproduct of this process, and the orb grew annoyed when Kibong started running around. Kibong was filled with rage upon realizing that he had been a pawn in the orb's plan to enter the world. He resolved to force the orb out and was about to attack when he heard Sisu's voice warning him to run. The orb confirmed that Sisu was its clone, and Kibong demanded her return before launching an attack that caused an explosion. Despite Kang Hui's efforts to sever One Eye's arms, they regenerated instantly, and the monster managed to grab him, while stating that having comrades won't change anything. Yubin's sword came severing one of the monster's feet, prompting it to try and attack Yubin, but Evil Spirit quickly cut off its arm. Kang Hui followed up by cutting off the monster's body, and Yui unleashed a powerful spell that burned it. However, they were surprised to see that One Eye still regenerated its entire body. One Eye began emitting light, and Kang Hui warned the group to evade. A subsequent explosion hit them all, leaving everyone injured on the ground. Jue noticed that Kang Hui had returned to his human form, while Yubin struggled to move. One Eye remarked that they were very tough and suggested calling them cockroaches instead of flies. Upon seeing Yui injured on the ground, Evil Spirit realized that he couldn't die like that. As One Eye taunted them, Evil Spirit recalled a conversation he had with his grandfather about his father's disappearance in an instant dungeon. His grandfather had explained that his father had sacrificed himself to close the gate and trap powerful monsters inside, preventing a dungeon break. However, this meant that nobody would ever be able to exit the dungeon again. Upon regaining consciousness, Yui saw Evil Spirit standing up. Evil Spirit told Yui that he had always been sincere towards her since their first meeting. He hesitated to say something and then approached One Eye, who asked what he wanted other than death. One Eye offered to listen to Evil Spirit as a final gift to him. Evil Spirit reaffirmed his promise to sacrifice himself, emphasizing that a man always keeps his word and that the moment had arrived. He then declared his love for Yui and opened an instant dungeon, using the technique of eternal closure to trap One Eye inside and taking him with him. Yui cried after realizing that Evil Spirit had sacrificed himself. After Kibong destroyed the orb with his attack, it regenerated itself immediately. The orb taunted Kibong, saying that his actions were pointless and that humans are foolish. However, Kibong responded that they would have to fight to determine who the real foolish one is. After continuously pummeling the monster to the ground, Kibong stopped and noticed that the orb was regenerating itself in the air. It declared that it could not be killed and released a powerful attack that Kibong barely managed to block, taking some damage in the process. The orb taunted Kibong, reminding him that it was his creator and that he should not be surprised by its power. Kibong provoked the orb and it attacked him, deactivating his body enhancement skill. The orb offered to make Kibong its child and become an 11-star monster, but Kibong was fed up with its words and activated his skill to attack. However, his attack was ineffective as the orb's body was incorporeal. The orb counterattacked, sending Kibong crashing to the ground and deactivating his skill again. The orb declared that it was Kibong's end after 3,000 years and attacked him with full force, calling him an irregular. Kibong was repeatedly hit by the orb, but he managed to remember his mother and activate his skill. The orb taunted Kibong for his weakened condition and asked if he had any other skills left. In response, Kibong activated Body Enhancement Stage 2, which the orb dismissed as a desperate move and laughed. However, Kibong remained determined, declaring that the orb would be dying by his own hands. Orb attempted to bind Kibong with its arms, claiming that everything Kibong has is because it allowed it and rejecting Kibong's statement. However, Kibong easily broke free and launched an attack, pushing Orb back. Although Orb's attack destroyed the surrounding area, it missed Kibong, who counter-attacked. The two exchanged blows, causing the surroundings to shake until Orb was left shaking on the ground. Kibong kicked Orb before it could finish speaking and continued attacking. Eventually, Orb was left on the ground and Kibong demanded that it return Sisu. Orb agreed and teleported them to the tutorial space, reminding Kibong that it was where he was created. Orb regenerated itself and boasted that it could crush Kibong with a single finger. Kibong acknowledged that he had resented Orb as a god, but now it didn't matter if it was a god or a man. Orb summoned the monster Kibong had been fighting for 3,000 years, which attacked Kibong. However, Kibong managed to destroy the monster with his attack, shattering the space around them. Orb was shocked, while Kibong confidently stated that no one knew that place better than him. Kibong then called out to Sisu, who came out from the cracks in space. She was thankful to Kibong for saving her and stated she almost got absorbed by the monster. Kibong then walked forward and told Orb that bringing him here was its biggest mistake. He then attacked while the unknown trait in his information window was revealed as God Slayer. Kibong's attack landed, vaporizing Orb. However, it managed to regenerate itself. Sisu then approached and initiated the absorption process, much to Orb's disbelief. During this time, Sisu revealed that the spread of day stones to dungeonify the earth was Orb's mistake. Orb attempted to attack once more, but Sisu's barrier repelled it. Kibong then dealt the final blow, and Sisu was able to absorb 100% of the system, ultimately defeating Orb. Kibong then asked about his mother and what was happening in Korea. Sisu responded by stating that the party was fighting an 8-star monster, according to her last tracking. Kibong urgently asked Sisu to open a portal to return, and Kibong activated his body enhancement skill level. As soon as they arrived, he vaporized the monsters in his path. In the instant dungeon, Evil Spirit was kneeling before One Eye. One Eye criticized Evil Spirit's decision to sacrifice himself, but Evil Spirit replied that he didn't regret it and asked to be killed. One Eye was about to kill Evil Spirit when Kibong arrived and annihilated it. Kibong then inquired about Evil Spirit's presence in the instant dungeon. Evil Spirit laughed and expressed his gratitude for being rescued. Meanwhile, Yui was feeling down. Jue sensed something and initially thought it was a dungeon break, but realized it was Kibong and Sisu returning with Evil Spirit. Yui rushed to embrace Evil Spirit upon seeing him, and everyone was relieved that everything was resolved. While the cleanup was underway, Jue playfully teased Seonggyeong about her late arrival. Seonggyeong explained herself, but Jue made it clear that she was just joking. Meanwhile, Kang Hwai was seething with anger at seeing Sisu in close proximity to Kibong. Kibong diffused the situation by praising Kang Hwai for his contribution to the battle. Later, Kibong visited his mother and informed her that their family's revenge had been taken and that he was unsure of what to do next. As Kibong's group arrived and saw his sorrow, he expressed gratitude for their help in protecting his mother and departed the room. Suddenly, Kibong noticed his mother's finger twitching, then opened her eyes and called out to him. He rushed to her side. Overcome with emotion, they shared a touching moment. The humans were granted a ceasefire, but the war was far from over. Although that had vanished, the dungeons remained open, and the fight continued. Meanwhile, in the United States, Steve and Lucia, two players on patrol, wondered why high-level monsters had suddenly disappeared. As they spoke, they were caught off guard by a monster, which Lucia easily defeated. She admonished Steve for being unprepared and he, in turn, asked if she had been in touch with her family in Korea. Lucia revealed that her brother and father had died in the Great War, but her mother was safe, and she expressed her desire to return home. Meanwhile, a powerful monster emerged from the sun and started releasing its aura into the surrounding. On Earth, Kibong was accompanying his mother on a walk and felt the danger coming. In the desert, Taram Park encountered a king desert worm. Taram easily defeated the monster. However, he was subsequently attacked and bound by chains by a group of cloaked people led by Dragunov. Dragunov accused Taram of being a government agent and noted his improved skills. Another person named Snacker mentioned Taram's older sister and reminisced about their past encounter. Taram revealed that he had been ordered to infiltrate a 7-star dungeon. Petro warned Taram not to rebel, stating that without the witch Urim Park, his chances of winning were slim. Petro offered leniency if Taram cooperated with their questions. Taram Park inquired if his captors had come to find someone. Snacker, impressed by Taram's intellect, expressed a willingness to cooperate but demanded information about the person they sought. Taram challenged them to break him first before revealing any information, prompting Snacker to criticize his arrogance even without his sister. Enraged by their insults towards his sister, Taram attempted to attack, but Dragunov used his abilities to slam Taram to the ground. Petro then used his chains to restrain Taram and launched multiple attacks. To their surprise, Taram shrugged off their assaults and remained standing, comparing their attacks to mere tickles in comparison to someone else's punch. Taram managed to break the chains restraining him and launched a powerful attack on Petro, destroying his armor and sending him flying with a punch. However, Dragunov countered with his ability, Strike Heaven's Hammer, causing Taram to lose consciousness. Snacker, witnessing Taram's formidable fight against two S-class opponents, reconsidered his plans and decided to capture Taram for research purposes. Suddenly, a warp gate appeared and Prime Minister Gu Seonggyeong arrived, surprised that someone had breached a prohibited intercountry teleportation spell. She recognized Dragunov and Snacker, but Snacker used his ability to escape. Beat Cheel checked on Taram, who informed him that Snacker had come looking for someone they knew. Sisu and Kibong's mother went grocery shopping, but Sisu warned her to be careful since she had used special medication to treat her. Two players blocked their path, and after confirming they were the ones they were looking for, one of the men grabbed Mrs. Kim. To everyone's surprise, she effortlessly tossed the man away. Sisu explained that she had used the same special medication and that it was from a monster Mr. Kim Kibong subjugated the heart of the fire dragon. She cautioned her about the need to control her strength to avoid getting into trouble. The other player was shocked by the display of power from Kibong's mother, while Sisu used her extensive memory manipulation to reset the memories of the people in the area. Mrs. Kim was concerned, but Sisu reassured her and escorted her home. Meanwhile, Kibong was taking a walk and reminiscing about the moment he emerged from the training area, which was when he saw his mother after 3,000 years. Kibong noticed two foreigners approaching him, Lucia and Steve. Steve complained about the lack of scenery, while Lucia suggested he return to headquarters. Kibong recognized Lucia as his sister Bongsun. However, she drew her blade, questioning who he was and how he knew her name. Kibong greeted her as our Bongsun, but Lucia didn't believe him, thinking he was a doppelganger. Kibong mentioned hearing from their mother that she had gone to the United States to become a player. Lucia demanded Kibong to stop his nonsense and reveal his true identity. Kibong persisted in claiming to be her brother and asked how he could make her believe him. Lucia, still skeptical, posed a test. She asked where the last place they were together was. Kibong correctly recalled it was the convenience store in front of their house and apologized for not buying soy sauce chicken that day. This caused Lucia to drop her sword, but she was still hesitant to believe him. She expressed her disbelief at the sudden reappearance of someone who had been presumed dead for over a decade without any prior contact. Feeling overwhelmed, she ran away. The president was informed about the ambush of Taram Park within South Korea's territory and expressed concern, wondering if this was an attempt to provoke a war. Seongri-yeong, however, emphasized the emergency of the situation, revealing that the incident had significantly reduced the drop rate of magic stones from dungeon monsters. The president noted that this wasn't the case in South Korea, where magic stones were still available. Seongri-yeong explained that magic stones were a highly valuable energy source, surpassing even oil and nuclear power. The president concluded that the attackers seemed prepared for war, but Seongri-yeong believed they would remain despite the potential conflict. 3 months ago, Sisu erased everyone in the world's memory of Kibong, including any mentions of him in TV, books, photos, and other media. Kibong requested this favor from Sisu, who agreed to carry it out. Kibong also whispered an additional request to Sisu while expressing his gratitude to everyone who hoped they would still remember him. In the present, the president was curious about why some people's memories were erased while others weren't. Seongri-yeong speculated that there might be a reason for this discrepancy, considering the potential risk to the president as a non-player if his memories were extracted. The president anticipated a surge in activity as people from around the world flocked to South Korea due to the memory alterations. He relied on the prime minister, whose memory remained intact, to handle the situation. Seongri-yeong assured the president that she would manage it effectively. As Lucia ran, she couldn't shake the belief that Kibong's reappearance was a lie. She decided to seek answers from her mother about what had happened. However, Lucia soon noticed that the streets were devoid of people and suspected it to be an illusion magic. She attempted to draw her blade but realized she had left it behind when she ran. 4 individuals then appeared in front of her. Meanwhile, Kibong conversed with Steve and inquired about the hardships Bongsun had endured in the United States. Steve confirmed that she had gone through significant challenges and had resolved to become stronger to protect her family. Kibong and Steve then heard the sound of battle, and upon using Steve's ability, they realized that Bongsun was in the midst of it. Steve sensed a potent energy emanating from Kibong, which filled him with fear. Lucia's identity was confirmed by the group, but she denied it, insisting that she was Korean and suspecting they were Russian agents. The leader of the group demanded that Lucia hand over government documents related to the collected magical stones from the NSA in exchange for her safety. Lucia responded with defiance, suggesting they enter the dungeon and retrieve the stones themselves, calling them pathetic. Lucia then unleashed her elemental magic and prepared for battle. The leader expressed curiosity about her abilities and also mentioned being interested in Steve's power, known as the eyes that see true essence, after witnessing Lucia's display of elemental magic. The group attacked Lucia, but her ability caused the leader and another man to be burned. The remaining 2 men panicked, attempting to extinguish the flames. Lucia, who had endured the paralyzing ability from an earlier attack, made the decision to flee. However, she was caught by an electrocution ability, immobilizing her. The men then captured her and began to leave. Kibong arrived on the scene and demanded that they release her. The leader, unmoved by Kibong's presence, urged his comrades to quickly deal with him and make their escape. The group attempted to attack Kibong, but he swiftly dealt with them, incapacitating them in the process. The man who had been carrying Lucia became terrified, and Kibong warned him one final time to release her. However, the man refused to comply, instead running and using a returning bead to open a portal. As the man passed through the portal, he felt relieved but wondered who the formidable individual confronting him was. Kibong tore open the space and demanded that Lucia be released. The man attempted to flee once more, but Kibong threw him back into the portal and retrieved Lucia. Kibong questioned the man, but he refused to answer. Kibong then called upon Sisu, who appeared instantly. He ordered Sisu to find the man's identity and why they were after Bongsun. Kibong confirmed that Lucia was his sister, and Sisu began to use her mind control ability on the captured agent. Under Sisu's influence, the agent stated that he belonged to the Russian Overseas Government's Information Agency. Their objective had been to kidnap Agent Lucia from the USA in order to obtain secure information. Kibong instructed Sisu to open a gate with coordinates set for Russia, specifically a desolate area devoid of people. The captured agent expressed astonishment at this tool-less method of opening a gate. Kibong warned the agent never to turn his attention towards him or his sibling again. In a display of his power, Kibong punched through the portal, obliterating everything on the other side. Bongsun woke up, being carried by Kibong, and couldn't help but wonder who Sisu was. They found their mother waiting for them, along with Steve. Kibong playfully teased Bongsun about her weight, earning a smack in response. Their mother inquired about the situation, wondering why Bongsun was being carried by her brother. Bongsun, however, evaded the question and simply expressed her longing for their mother. Steve and Bongsun were surprised by the size and quality of their new home. Bongsun expressed disbelief, questioning how such a place could exist in a semi-basement of a poor hillside village. Kibong explained that they had received the house from the government and he had been involved in some governmental work to secure it. Bongsun remained suspicious and turned to her mother for confirmation. Mrs. Kim confirmed Kibong's explanation, mentioning that they had received both the house and medical treatment thanks to Kibong's efforts. Bongsun asked who Sisu was and what her relationship with Kibong was. Sisu attempted to cling to Kibong for support, but he pushed her away, promising to explain later, which only heightened Bongsun's suspicions. Later that night, Bongsun confided in Steve about the Russian information agency targeting her. Bongsun expressed frustration, asking why Steve hadn't called her Lucia, and requested that he stop calling her Bongsun. Steve apologized but explained that everyone around referred to her as Bongsun. Bongsun continued, explaining that the agency was after information about the magic stone she possessed. Steve was puzzled about how she managed to escape from them, considering they must have been formidable opponents. Bongsun admitted her uncertainty, revealing that she had been captured by them. When she regained consciousness, she found herself being carried on her brother's back. She then asked Steve if he had scanned her brother and if he was also a player. Steve recalled the moment when he detected Kibong's power and had told him not to reveal this to Bongsun before leaving to rescue her. When Bongsun questioned if her brother was a player, Steve lied, confirming that Kibong was not a player. Bongsun, reassured by Steve's statement, believed that her brother couldn't be a player. She decided to rest for the day and planned to explore the dungeons in Korea thoroughly starting the next day. The following day, Steve and Bongsun headed to the dungeons, with Kibong following them. Bongsun questioned why he was following her. Kibong innocently replied that they were just going the same way and told her not to mind him. Bongsun, frustrated, reminded him that she was working. Steve nervously suggested that Kibong join them, but Bongsun dismissed the idea, emphasizing that he was a civilian, not a player, and had never killed anyone. Steve agreed with her, thinking about the mysterious power he had felt from Kibong and the uncertainty surrounding his identity. Bongsun and Steve left Kibong behind as they ventured into the dungeon to battle monsters. While fighting, Bongsun explained their mission to investigate the drop probability of magic stones, and Steve provided support by analyzing the enemies they encountered. They faced reptilian-type monsters with an average level of 4 stars, which were vulnerable to fire. Following his analysis, Bongsun efficiently defeated the group of monsters, and Steve confirmed that no monsters remained alive. Their efforts paid off as they found a magic stone, confirming that Korea was still yielding these valuable resources. Bongsun decided to continue exploring the dungeon to gather more data, but expressed the urgency to finish quickly and leave before others arrived. Outside the portal, a group of players arrived, puzzled by the activation of the portal, since they were the only guild that had permission to enter the dungeon. The leader of the group decided to enter the portal to confront those who had apparently stolen their dungeon. Kibong, wearing a mask, intercepted the group and tried to advise them to turn back. The leader found Kibong suspicious and suspected him of teaming up with dungeon thieves. Ignoring Kibong's advice, the group attempted to attack him, but they were swiftly defeated. The leader, now terrified and assuming Kibong was an S-rank player after witnessing him defeat dozens of their guild members. Kibong reiterated that nobody could enter that day and ordered them to go back. The leader realized that Kibong seemed to know who they were and asked about their identity. However, the leader ultimately decided to heed Kibong's warning and return, although one of their members was hesitant to give up the dungeons. The leader reminded them of the futility of confronting Kibong and suggested they report the situation to their master instead. Steve and Bongsun continued their battle, with Steve supporting Bongsun to get into the air and defeat a flying monster. Steve skillfully cushioned Bongsun's fall after the successful takedown, and they obtained another magic stone from the defeated monster. Bongsun confirmed that the boss monster, the mystic bird, was dropping magic stones, signaling that they had successfully cleared the dungeon. She expressed relief that they hadn't encountered any interference from other guilds, considering themselves lucky. However, Steve's reaction puzzled her. Steve questioned if their luck was really a coincidence, given the unusual lack of interference and the delicate management of dungeons by guilds in Korea. Bongsun acknowledged the point but reassured him that they had prepared plenty of return stones for a quick escape if they were discovered. Steve remained doubtful, prompting Bongsun to suggest returning and reporting their findings, leaving the matter for their superiors to investigate further. Jian Hyeonjin, the leader of the Azure Dragon Guild external military team and the 11th ranked player in South Korea, was informed by his team members about the earlier incident. He inquired if the attackers were from the Shield Guild or the Hwarang Guild. The team leader admitted uncertainty, as the assailant was someone they had never seen before. Hyeonjin expressed disbelief that his team had been defeated by a single person and questioned if that was the reason they had come to him with the report. The team leader explained that the individual wasn't ordinary, but an S-rank player. Hyeonjin was intrigued by this revelation and asked for a description of the S-rank player's appearance. His team members informed him that the man had worn a horse head mask, which Hyeonjin found to be amusing. Snacker and Dragunov discussed their boredom and lack of activity, with Dragunov expressing frustration at their current situation. Snacker acknowledged the lack of choices they had, and Dragunov suspected that Gu Seoryeong might be the cause of their inactivity. Snacker admitted that while Gu Seoryeong possessed impressive abilities, they could still defeat her. Dragunov, growing increasingly frustrated, asked for a straightforward answer, prompting Snacker to reveal the reason for their recent inaction. Snacker explained that the one who erased their memories, referred to as that thing, had not been moving, and as a result, they couldn't act hastily. Dragunov pressed for more information, asking if that thing had become active again. Snacker revealed that there had been an incident on a Russian island comparable in size to the Korean peninsula, where everything had evaporated. Dragunov and Snacker discussed the mysterious incident on the Russian island, with Snacker suggesting that that thing was responsible for it. They decided to investigate why it had appeared and to use the opportunity to obtain it, although Dragunov was skeptical about how to accomplish such a feat. Meanwhile, another group attempted to attack Kibong but easily defeated them. Later that night, Mrs. Kim asked Bongsun about what had happened, expressing concern for her safety. Bongsun assured her mother that everything was fine and that there was no danger. Mrs. Kim sought reassurance from Steve, who also confirmed that everything was safe, easing her worries. Bongsun then revealed her plan to visit the open dungeon starting the next day. Kibong inquired about what an open dungeon was. Bongsun explained that an open-type dungeon was a dungeon with multiple entrances, and because there were numerous entrances, neither the country nor any guild particularly controlled it. This allowed many players to freely use it for hunting monsters or obtaining magical stones. She then stated that there was no use for Kibong to know this as he wasn't a player. Steve, apparently scared of Kibong, scolded Bongsun for her attitude, noting that she had been disrespectful towards her older brother. Bongsun retorted, questioning why an American was lecturing her about manners. Kibong inquired if he couldn't join them because he wasn't a player. Bongsun responded by stating that it was an obvious question and emphasized that Kibong wouldn't be accompanying them, urging him to focus on his girlfriend instead. She then left the table, followed by Steve, who encouraged her to apologize to her brother. Sisu asked Kibong for his thoughts on what to do, considering that open dungeons had multiple entrances, making them difficult to control. Kibong suggested an idea, which Sisu agreed with. Meanwhile, Steve approached Bongsun and questioned her about her rude behavior toward her brother. Bongsun explained that she was worried about him going to a dangerous place again, especially because he wasn't a player. She admitted that she didn't want to lose him and asked Steve why he seemed to hold her brother in such high regard. Steve tried to make an excuse, saying it was because Kibong was Bongsun's brother. However, Bongsun insisted that he call her Lucia instead of Bongsun, and she smacked him, demanding that he use her preferred name. In a 6-star grade open dungeon called the Deep Flames of Ursus, a large crowd of players had gathered. One player inquired about the unusually high number of people present. Another player explained that recently, someone had blocked the entrances to various dungeons, causing guild members to converge on the open dungeon. They mentioned that the culprit was rumored to wear an animal mask. Suddenly, Bongsun and Steve arrived, both wearing animal masks. Their appearance attracted suspicious glances from the surrounding players. Bongsun wondered why everyone was staring at them, while Steve questioned their choice of animal masks. Bongsun explained that cuteness was generally effective at breaking down the defenses of opponents. Steve expressed concern about the atmosphere, but Bongsun dismissed it, suggesting that they should behave naturally despite the curious onlookers. In the Azure Dragon Guild's exclusive dungeon, the arrogant fire snake's lair, Hyunjin received a message and made his way to the dungeon entrance. Meanwhile, Bongsun and Steve attempted to form a party with some of the players in the area. However, the potential party members were hesitant and eventually fled, leaving Bongsun and Steve confused. Hyunjin arrived at the entrance and encountered another group of individuals waiting there. He questioned their presence, as they were unfamiliar to him. A cloaked man from the group warned Hyunjin to stay back, claiming that it was none of his business. Hyunjin retorted that such a statement might give the impression that they weren't in the Republic of Korea. Without warning, Hyunjin launched an attack, destroying the man's arm. Bongsun was frustrated as they struggled to find a party to enter the open dungeon, while Steve expressed his discontent. Bongsun emphasized the importance of having a party, especially when entering open dungeons, where a minimum of 4 people was required to access the boss room. Steve suggested that they take off their masks and search for potential teammates. However, Bongsun was hesitant, fearing that revealing their identities could lead to trouble, remembering the Russian agents who had attacked her. Just as they were about to leave in search of a party, someone approached them. Despite having his arm destroyed by Hyunjin, the cloaked man remained undeterred and continued to mock his opponent. Hyunjin launched another attack, but it had no effect on the cloaked man. The bald man taunted Hyunjin, questioning if that was all he had. Hyunjin responded with a warning about pride leading to a fall. However, the cloaked man was unimpressed and demonstrated his strength by grabbing Hyunjin, slamming him to the ground twice, and then throwing him aside. Mocking the Blue Dragon Guild and belittling the small eastern country, the bald man instructed his group to enter the dungeon and find a person wearing an animal disguise. Hyunjin stood up seemingly unharmed and prevented the cloaked man's group from leaving. Bald man commented that it would have been less painful if Hyunjin had simply stayed down. Hyunjin then issued orders to his subordinates to find the person wearing the animal head before anyone else could. 2 of them continued their battle. Meanwhile, 2 individuals wearing animal suits approached Steve and Bongsun, inquiring if they were looking for a party. Bongsun noticed something familiar about their way of speaking, but couldn't place it. Steve, however, recognized that their voices had been altered by magic but was silenced by Bongsun. They ultimately accepted the offer to join the party, feeling they had no other choice. Steve couldn't shake the feeling that something was off with the 2 people who had approached them, especially regarding their magically altered voices. He decided to use his detect ability to gain more information and saw their power levels. Kibong, however, signaled him to remain quiet while Bongsun assured them that they would handle everything. Bongsun inquired about their ranks. Kibong explained that he couldn't measure accurately because the measuring machine was broken. Bongsun, silently speculating, considered that Kibong might be a low rank, perhaps even a C rank. Regardless, she was willing to handle the majority of the challenges herself. Steve tried to calm Bongsun down and encouraged her to proceed. They arrived at the entrance to the dungeon, and Bongsun couldn't hide her excitement. She explained the dungeon's mechanics, emphasizing that the 2 newcomers should support her from behind. Sisu, playing along, expressed her determination to support Bongsun well. Bongsun assumed that the 2 were martial artists since they didn't carry any weapons. Their turn to enter the dungeon came, but when they stepped inside, they found other players on the ground. This sight put Bongsun on guard. Steve used his wide area exploration ability to detect hostile entities ahead and shared the field of vision with Bongsun. Bongsun wasted no time and charged forward, with Steve summoning a shield to protect her from the monster's attacks. Bongsun swiftly defeated the monsters with ease. However, Steve noticed something strange about the situation. While they had seen players who were attacked at the entrance, there were no monster corpses around. These monsters were relatively weak, and the fact that players of their level had been ambushed didn't make sense. Sisu called Kibong over, nearly slipping and using his real name. This piqued Bongsun's curiosity. Meanwhile, Kibong felt an ominous presence, and in another location, a monster was watching Kibong's group. Snacker arrived, wanting to speak with the monster. He proposed a potential alliance, suggesting that they both had an interest in that thing that erases the memories of humanity. However, the monster remained silent and left through a portal. Snacker recalled that they had detected a powerful entity in the universe that erased memories, but it was not the same as the one they sought. He believed that thanks to the memories erased by the entity, there would be no one left to help the entity. Hyunjin emerged victorious from his battle and expressed frustration that the Shield Guild seemed to allow these outsiders to do as they pleased in Korea. He then entered the dungeon. Meanwhile, Bongsun and Steve continued to work together to fight the monsters. Sisu expressed concern about Bongsun and Steve handling the situation alone, but Steve reassured her that Bongsun was an expert in boss attacks, especially when they were together. Steve used another buff to empower Bongsun, and she swiftly attacked the giant monster, bringing it to its knees. The monster struggled to hit Bongsun, and she delivered the final blow, ending the battle. She then instructed Steve to collect the magic stones. Kibong remained concerned about her ability to defeat certain monsters easily. They confirmed magic stones still dropped in open dungeons, and Bongsun assumed that there were no major problems in South Korean dungeons. They discussed investigating low-rank level dungeons as part of their mission. Bongsun thanked Kibong and Sisu for coming and invited them to join again tomorrow, which they eagerly accepted. Bongsun felt pleased despite their noisy company. Finally, Bongsun and Steve left. Sisu praised Bongsun, but Kibong didn't share the same sentiment. Hyunjin arrived and threatened them, particularly those wearing animal masks, which worried Kibong since Bongsun wore one. Kibong decided to confront Hyunjin, with Sisu advising him not to be too harsh. When Hyunjin attempted to attack, he felt a suffocating pressure and recalled his time in a tutorial dungeon. Despite trying to attack, Hyunjin's attempt was easily caught by Kibong. Hyunjin retreated after feeling fear. Hyunjin called in his subordinates and ordered a formation to battle against an estimated 8-star opponent. Hyunjin reflected on the symbolic nature of the 8-star rank, as strength beyond 7 stars couldn't be accurately categorized. He stressed the importance of not withdrawing from their current situation, as doing so would jeopardize the Azure Dragon Guild's control over the dungeon and its reputation. He believed that their ability to maintain their status as the Azure Dragon Guild, strike fear into other South Korean players, and be true to themselves was rooted in their unwavering commitment to never retreat from a battle under the banner of the Azure Dragon. Hyunjin ordered an attack, and his group executed their formation and abilities, exerting powerful pressure on Kibong. However, Kibong remained unaffected, instead just felt curious about the ability they were using. Recognizing that their initial attacks were ineffective, Hyunjin decided to personally engage. While his allies continued their assault on Kibong, Hyunjin attempted to strike him directly. To his surprise, his attacks felt like hitting solid iron, and his hand was hurt in the process. This realization left Hyunjin terrified as he understood that they had no chance of winning. Hyunjin demanded to know who Kibong was, but Kibong refused to reveal his identity. Hyunjin tried to stop his members from attacking, but it was too late. Kibong retaliated, using powerful attacks to blow the group away. He warned Hyunjin not to pursue him and knocked him out, stating there would be no next time. Sisu praised Kibong for handling the situation moderately to avoid unnecessary trouble for Bongsun. Before leaving, Hyunjin called out to them, questioning why someone with such power had merely watched during significant events like the Great War, the subjugation of the Fire Dragon, and the defensive Battle of Seoul. Despite seeing Hyunjin lose consciousness, Kibong responded by confirming that he had been present in those places. The news of the Azure Dragon Guild's defeat spread rapidly, leading the chairman of the guild to call a meeting. He questioned why their team leader and 50 members of their external force, a formidable group capable of overpowering most South Korean guilds, were in such a state and why rumors were spreading so quickly. A subordinate noted the abnormal speed of information dissemination and suggested someone was involved in spreading the rumors. Snacker suddenly arrived and greeted the chairman in a disrespectful manner, referring to him as a little child. This caused the chairman to release a threatening aura. Snacker hinted at knowing what had happened in the open dungeon, leading the chairman to suspect that Snacker was behind the rumors. In a threatening tone, the chairman demanded that Snacker reveal the truth, offering to spare him if he did so. Snacker questioned the chairman about his sudden memory loss, describing it as if memories had been abruptly removed. Snacker then invited the chairman to come to a specific place in a month if he wanted to hear more of the story, handing him a piece of paper before departing. The chairman wondered whether Snacker truly knew something important or if he had ulterior motives, perhaps related to magic stones from the island nation that had been depleted. The monster that had been observing Kibong faced off against another monster. In the confrontation, the frost monster was defeated and the winner demanded its submission. Meanwhile, the team leader, Jiwoong, and another member were on a mission to investigate the movements of an 8-star boss. The member expressed curiosity about who would win in a battle between the Fire Dragon and Prasna, both being 8 stars. Juung responded that it was unlikely they would ever find out because creatures that cannot be subjugated are all labeled as 8 stars. If they could be subdued, their rank would be adjusted accordingly. While walking, Juung and the other member discovered the corpses of multiple Russian players and promptly reported the situation to their headquarters. Juung speculated that Prasna might have made a move in the area since there were no other monsters present, explaining why they were ordered to investigate. The guild masters of the top guilds convened a meeting with the chairman and Yuban, expressing curiosity about the reason behind the gathering. The Magic Tower Master mentioned that it was indeed an interesting matter and she cast a spell on everyone, causing the chairman to question her actions. She apologized, explaining that there was something she needed to verify and that they all required an explanation. It became apparent that the two of them had encountered Snacker. The chairman used his abilities to demand answers from the Magic Tower Master, who explained that there was reasonable evidence suggesting Snacker was in contact with a formidable entity, posing a significant threat to humanity. She stated that, as the Magic Tower Master, it was her duty to take them into custody until she could uncover the truth and protect peace. The Tower Master binds Taram and the chairman with a spell, but Taram easily breaks free, surprising her with his physical strength. Taram decided not to explain anything and turned to leave. The Tower Master attacked to stop him, but Taram effortlessly neutralized her attacks, advising her to cease her actions. The Tower Master proposed that if Taram came with her to the Magic Tower, she would stop and use another spell. However, Taram was undeterred and launched his own attacks, pushing the Tower Master back. During the struggle between Taram and the Tower Master, Yuban intervened and halted Taram's attack. Taram questioned Yuban's actions, and Yuban expressed curiosity about why they had met Snacker. Taram remained tight-lipped. Yuban continued to launch attacks, with Taram parrying them. The chairman expressed frustration at the conflict between them. Meanwhile, Steve and Bongsun were waiting for their previous party members, Kibong and Sisu. When Kibong and Sisu arrived wearing horse masks, they prepared to enter the dungeon, but the portal unexpectedly changed. The players assumed that a dungeon break was imminent. Shortly afterward, an emergency notice was issued, stating that abnormal manifestations had occurred in dungeons of all ranks worldwide. Entry into the dungeon was strictly prohibited, and they were instructed to await further instructions. Kibong inquired about the emergency notice, which puzzled Bongsun. She thought it was strange since all players should have received the notice through the association. Another emergency notice was then issued to everyone. The new notice instructed all agents in their dispatched country to participate in rank reassessment and await the determination of the exploration dungeon. It emphasized the importance of participating in higher-ranked dungeon exploration. This sudden notice surprised everyone. Juung and his group arrived, advising people to step away from the portal and adhere to the regulations. A player questioned why they were being prevented from entering the dungeon. Juung explained that entering the dungeon at that moment would result in everyone's death. He clarified that all dungeons across the country were currently in an uncontrollable state, and there were plans to organize a raid party led by the government and guilds to address the situation. Kibong questioned Sisu, wondering if she had something to do with preventing Bongsun from entering the dungeon. Sisu assured him that she wanted to see both Kibong and Bongsun working together as a team and wasn't behind the situation. Sisu stated that she didn't have much information either, and the situation was beyond her control. Kibong inquired if there had ever been an incident where a dungeon went out of control like this before. Sisu explained that, until now, there hadn't been an incident of this nature, and it was indeed a strange and unprecedented occurrence that left her wondering about its cause. Bongsun expressed her frustration over the situation, wishing they could have explored the dungeon together. She anticipated that being in the same party for a raid would be challenging due to differences in their skills. Steve suggested that they take a level test together, as forming a raid party required it. Bongsun seemed initially hesitant, questioning why they should do it together, but Steve insisted that it would be great to do it as a group. Sisu enthusiastically agreed, saying it would be fun if everyone participated together. Bongsun eventually agreed. They agreed to prepare and meet at the center for the test. After Bongsun and Steve left, Kibong invited Sisu to explore the dungeon, and she agreed. Kibong removed his mask and greeted Juung and the others, but they didn't recognize him. Kibong smiled and observed that Juung had become stronger before heading toward the portal. Juung attempted to stop them, but Sisu used her ability to erase the group's memory. After Kibong and Sisu entered the portal, Juung and the others suddenly started tearing up, which puzzled them. Upon entering the dungeon, Kibong and Sisu sensed something strange. Sisu mentioned that it was an extraordinary dungeon that had gone beyond her control and was quite powerful. Kibong carried Sisu and flew toward the dungeon boss, encountering boss-level monsters along the way, which Kibong easily defeated. Eventually, they encountered a giant monster that tried to swallow them, but Kibong swiftly destroyed it. They reached a location and wondered if the boss was the egg-like object they had found. Sisu estimated the initial monster they encountered to be around rank 4 or 5, which surprised Kibong as it seemed lower in rank than the monsters they had encountered previously. However, another monster emerged from the egg, and Sisu estimated it to be an 8-star rank. Kibong compared it to the fire dragon, but Sisu clarified that the fire dragon was on a different level altogether. Kibong suggested they check the difference, and the monster attacked. To Kibong's surprise, the monster could talk. Sisu found the situation fascinating, mentioning that this monster didn't exist in her database. Kibong, having confirmed the situation, decided it was time to end the encounter. Kibong activated his body enhancement, causing the monster to retreat in fear. However, the monster launched another attack, but Kibong swiftly slammed it to the ground. Kibong followed up with another attack, yet the monster remained alive and started crawling away. Sisu observed that the monster was growing stronger, indicating that she might need to modify its rank. Kibong realized that he had to end the fight before the monster became even more powerful. The monster uttered words about its father killing Kibong. Kibong responded confidently, challenging the father to try. He then proceeded to finish off the monster. As Yubin and Taram continued their confrontation, the chairman demanded that the Tower Master release him, but she expressed her distrust toward him. Yubin also voiced his lack of trust in Taram and suggested that he answer the Master of Magic Tower's questions. Taram asserted that he was a government agent, not a puppet of the Master of Magic Tower. During their exchange of blows, Taram noticed that Yubin's skills had improved. The chairman pointed out that even their current situation, where they were fighting each other, might be precisely what the unidentified entity they were discussing wanted. The Tower Master explained that the tower had judged that an unidentified entity encountered by Snacker would soon invade humanity by utilizing the dungeon, and Snacker had intentions regarding that entity. They then received a code black emergency, and the Tower Master assumed that it had already begun. Bongson and Steve arrived at the dungeon raid recruitment and encountered the cold-blooded witch, Kim Yuhian, an arcane swordsman who held the official 55th rank. Yui and Evil Spirit also arrived at the scene. Yui informed the viewers on her stream that it was her first re-evaluation since the Great War, but suddenly had a vague memory that puzzled her. Yuhian greeted Yui and asked if Evil Spirit was her boyfriend. Although Evil Spirit wanted to say yes, Yui stopped her, introducing Evil Spirit as her manager instead. Before leaving, Yuhian expressed a wish for Yui to perform well in the re-evaluation, hoping to see her in the same raid. Yui then informed her viewers that she had been selected as a judging committee member for player rank re-evaluation. Yui explained the measurement methods for the re-evaluation, which involved either a one-on-one session with the judging committee or demonstrating skills that the committee could agree with. Those who received high ranks in this re-evaluation would have the opportunity to join raid parties with South Korea's top rankers, offering special benefits. The participants engaged in combat while Evil Spirit and Yui evaluated and graded their performances. Yui expressed exhaustion, but noted that there weren't as many remarkable individuals as she had expected. She speculated that other rankers might appear with time. Yui proudly mentioned that she had completed a re-evaluation. Although not yet an S rank, humorously referred to herself as something like an S-rank gatekeeper. As Yui observed two participants arriving, it was Kibong and Sisu. Evil Spirit approached Kibong for his evaluation, and both Yui and Evil Spirit found amusement in Kibong's appearance. Kibong inquired about the rank required to join a party, and Yui stated that it was typically A rank. Kibong asked if defeating Evil Spirit would elevate his rank to A. Evil Spirit expressed amusement at his own fame. He affirmed that defeating him would not only grant an A rank but go beyond that. Evil Spirit then challenged Kibong to attack him. As Kibong approached, Evil Spirit felt an overwhelming pressure emanating from him and immediately resorted to using his Instant Dungeon ability. This action surprised Yui. She explained that Instant Dungeon was a technique employed by Evil Spirit when facing unbeatable opponents. Yui then proceeded with Sisu's evaluation. Sisu informed her that she would be using magic, and Yui instructed her to attack. However, Yui was surprised when she saw that Sisu didn't possess an artifact yet easily used magic. Yui defended herself from Sisu's attacks using her barrier. As Sisu continued her attacks, Yui realized that Sisu was not a low-ranked magician and wondered about her origins. She pondered whether Sisu was from a guild, but she couldn't recall hearing about her. Yui then asked if Sisu was from the magic tower, to which Sisu responded that she didn't know about the magic tower. Yui acknowledged Sisu's skill but told her that she hadn't passed the evaluation yet. Yui suggests that they should now see the skill of the magic tower, leaving Sisu surprised. Yui launched an attack using fire explosion, but Sisu easily dispersed the attack. Undeterred, Yui cast another spell that engulfed Sisu, thinking she had won. However, Sisu emerged unscathed, effortlessly dispersing the attack. Yui was left in shock. Sisu launched an attack but lightly tapped on Yui's head, confirming that she had passed the evaluation. Evil Spirit emerged from the instant dungeon, visibly worn down. Kibong informed Sisu that he had also passed, and Yui estimated that they were at least S rank. Yui then presented them with a card, explaining that it proved their eligibility for raid participation. She mentioned that when a raid summons was issued, the card would receive a notification. Kibong and Sisu depart, with Sisu expressing her pleasure in meeting again. Yui, puzzled by the comment, wonders if she knows Sisu. Meanwhile, Evil Spirit is still shocked by their recent defeat. After the meeting, the chairman expresses frustration, vowing to eliminate all of them in their next encounter, be it at the magic tower or elsewhere. He questions what turned them into monsters and contemplates the validity of the magic tower's master's claims, despite thinking the old man is crazy. His curiosity drives him to take action. The chairman uses a stone to open a portal and encounters Snacker and Dragunov's group on the other side. Snacker expresses anticipation of the chairman's arrival. The chairman, surprised by their numbers, raises concerns about the potential chaos if the prime minister were to find out about their meeting. Snacker dismisses such worries, emphasizing the urgency of their situation. The chairman comments on Snacker's audacity, questioning when they started treating the prime minister as a minor obstacle. A group member reminded the chairman of his position as the Azure Dragon Guildmaster and suggested that his words were too harsh. The chairman attacked and defeated the group. The chairman's attention shifted to Snacker and Dragunov. Snacker urges him to stop, stating he has vented enough frustration. Snacker then easily dispels the chairman's ability and advises him to calm down. The chairman agrees and expresses his willingness to hear their story. Snacker uses his ability to trigger the chairman's memory. Snacker reveals that he turned back time slightly, allowing the chairman to glimpse an erased memory. He assures the chairman that with their help, he can recover even his lost memories. Kibong and Sisu meet with Steve and Bongsun, informing them that they've completed their test. Steve mentions that they've already taken a test recently and reveals that the examiner was the cold-blooded witch. Sisu inquires about their test results. Steve, Kibong, and Sisu display their test cards, surprising Bongsun with their performance, indicating they did better than expected. Yuhyun arrives and asks if Steve and Bongsun are part of a guild. Steve mentions they belong to a small guild, so obscure that it's hardly noticeable. As Steve hands his card to Yuhyun, Sisu covertly alters the card's information. Yuhyun notes the guild's name, Animal Farm, finding it interesting. Steve that the government agency created a fake guild for them called Steel Garden, leading to his confusion about the altered guild name. Yuhyun, curious about their guild, asks Sisu about it and notices that they are all from the same guild, which surprises Bongsun. Bongsun then turns to Steve to inquire about it, and Steve suspects that it was Kibong's doing. Steve confirms Bongsun's suspicion, explaining that he prepared for this moment in advance because they had all decided to work together. Bongsun is surprised by Steve's diligence, and Yuhyun chimes in, expressing a desire for everyone to go to a certain place together, hinting at the idea of forming a raid party. Bongsun enthusiastically agrees, and Kibong notes that Bongsun seems to be feeling a sense of competition and realizes he can no longer just watch. Yui comforts the still downcast evil spirit after their loss. Yui then notices Yuhyun arriving with Kibong's group. Yui acknowledges that it's as expected, and Yuhyun confirms that they are indeed participating in the raiding party due to an order from above, likely after observing the examination process. Despite wanting to challenge Kibong, Evil Spirit is hesitant and fearful following their previous encounter. However, as some players in the area begin to mock Kibong's group, including those who allowed them to participate in the raid, Evil Spirit decides to approach the group. The group's mockery continues, but Evil Spirit intervenes, releasing a powerful pressure to defend Yui and Horsehead. When one of the men attacks, Evil Spirit easily takes him down. Evil Spirit acknowledges his inability to defeat Kibong at this moment, particularly Mr. Horsehead, and expresses a determination to surpass him no matter what it takes. This declaration surprises everyone present. Bongsun questions Steve about why he didn't inform her about their strength earlier. Steve made an excuse, suggesting that they could be incredibly strong and emphasizing that there are many formidable individuals around them, including those they may not be aware of. Kim Mucheol from the Hwarang Guild arrives and announces the start of the briefing for the Prasna raid. Mucheol explains that the Prasna raid is considered a nearly impossible challenge for humanity, involving the subjugation of the Fire Dragon, an 8-star dungeon featuring units of national level, including those from the Republic of Korea. It's noted as the only successful 8-star level raid. A player from the Brown Bear Guild inquires about the details of how the Fire Dragon was subjugated. Mucheol responds that many participants in the raid died, and during the Soul Guild battle, a significant amount of data was lost, making it impossible to provide precise information. Another player asks about the Prime Minister's involvement. Mucheol clarifies that the Prime Minister was not present during the raid, she was outside the barrier at that time. One player points out that there is ultimately no data available for the 8-star level battle. Mucheol agrees, confirming the lack of detailed data, but emphasizing that it proves humanity's capability to subdue an 8-star level monster. Bongsun expresses curiosity about how the Fire Dragon was truly subjugated in Korea, given that the 8-star level is considered an extraordinary challenge that other countries wouldn't even attempt. Steve defends Korea, highlighting the presence of numerous S-rank players there, but Bongsun remains skeptical of the 8-star challenge. Yubin interjects, revealing that there has been an undisclosed occasion in Korea where an 8-star level monster was hunted again, surprising the crowd. Another player questions the claim and asks for proof, such as evidence or witnesses. Yubin cites Evil Spirit and Yui, the ones earlier mocked as a clown and a clown manager, along with their colleagues, as the ones who personally subjugated the monster. He challenges if more evidence is needed. Yubin expresses confidence in their ability to undertake the Prasna raid, mentioning that although the team composition has changed from their previous mission, they can do it again because they have something worth protecting. Taram, however, realizes that Yubin does not remember certain details and becomes curious about why this is the case. His attention is then drawn to the presence of Kibong and Sisu, causing him to drop his sword in shock. In the meantime, Prasna initiates an attack on the people in the area. Other players arrive and advise the people to flee. The group engages Prasna in battle, aiming to buy time for the evacuation. Unfortunately, after a fierce battle, they are all defeated by Prasna. The raiding party arrives at the location. Taram is greeted by White Bear, but Taram threatens him and vows to destroy White Bear after dealing with Prasna. In the Russian military base's conference room, the players discuss their plans for the Prasna raid. Yamaguchi suggests that making Prasna the main focus might not be wise since Russia possesses the most information about Prasna. Another player agrees, proposing that Russia could attack the center while other countries provide support from the sides. White Bear questions if other countries are reluctant to be at the forefront due to a fear of dying first. The player responds that if that's the case, there's not much they can do, but they argue that it's natural for Russia, with more knowledge, to take the lead. White Bear challenges the players' intentions, asking if they come to reap the benefits if the raid succeeds. The player takes offense. Yubin intervenes to stop the argument. Yamaguchi suggests that Korea, which has experience subduing the Fire Dragon, should stand at the center alongside Russia. He points out that Korea is the only country to send 2 S-rank players this time and highlights the potential danger if Prasna breaches Russia, as it could lead directly to the Korean peninsula. Seongryong emphasizes the importance of stopping Prasna in Russia, as allowing Prasna to enter the Korean peninsula would be a significant disaster. He mentions that neighboring countries may send relatively powerful raid parties, but those from other continents may only send parties for appearances. Yubin agrees with the assessment and states their determination to succeed in the raid with their limited forces. Seongryong adds one more piece of advice, suggesting that if they encounter a situation they can't handle on their own, they should find some horses. White Bear agrees that Russia will take the central position in the raid, emphasizing that Prasna tends to act independently, which increases their chances of victory. As the players on watch spotted a group of monsters arriving and preparing for battle, the players charged forward. Steve and Bongsun also joined the action. Sisu asks Kibong if he's going to take action. Sisu then suggests leaving it to her, and Kibong agrees. She decides to make Bongsun the protagonist and uses her ability. Amidst a clash between players and monsters, Yuhyun attempts to locate Prasna, but fails to do so. Another player notes the strangeness of the situation, as the information indicated that Prasna didn't have a legion. Yuhyun acknowledged the hiccup in the plan and assumed it would be a difficult raid before charging forward herself. Sisu empowers Bongsun, significantly increasing her speed, which surprises the other players. Bongsun, equally amazed, wonders if Steve has learned a new magic. Steve, observing Bongsun's newfound power, becomes excited, thinking that his skills might have improved. However, he soon looks over to Sisu and realizes her involvement. Yuyin and Bongsun continue to fight and easily defeat a group of monsters using their fire and ice abilities. The other players begin to wonder if Bongsun is another S-rank player due to her impressive abilities. After some time, Bongsun feels fatigued and tries to ask Steve for help, but she's already far from him, and he can't hear her. Suddenly, a group of monsters attacks her. The monsters attacking Bongsun are instantly destroyed, and she is surprised to see Mr. Horsehead. Sisu uses another ability, causing Bongsun's fire ability to erupt. Bongsun thanks Steve and acknowledges the improvement in his skills. Meanwhile, Prasna notices Bongsun's fire ability from afar. After the battle, the other players discuss Bongsun and compare her to the Ice Witch, Yuhian. Some see this as an opportunity to recruit an unknown high-ranking player, and they start approaching Bongsun, asking about her guild. However, Steve intervenes, declining any interviews. In their room, Bongsun finds the situation embarrassing and expresses her preference for fighting. Bongsun questions when Steve became so skilled, expressing her surprise that he didn't mention his abilities sooner. Steve reflects on the extraordinary abilities of Sisu and Kibong and how he couldn't have known without activating his scanning magic up close. He ponders the identities of these two individuals and realizes he can't find the answer on his own. Steve considers whether he should report the extraordinary abilities of Sisu and Kibong to their home country, but decides not to for now, as he hasn't fully understood the situation yet. Bongsun mentions that she noticed someone suspicious among the people wearing masks. This person had been behind her for a long time, but suddenly appeared in front of her and seemed to have taken care of the monsters attacking her. Steve suggests that she might have mistaken this person for an attack by the cold-blooded witch due to the urgency of the situation. Sisu and Kibong arrive, and Bongsun immediately questions Kibong about the earlier incident, asking how he was in front of her when he had been behind her. She wonders if he is concealing his abilities and asks for his true identity. Kibong responds by acknowledging the usefulness of Steve's magic, and Bongsun concludes that her suspicions are unfounded. She thanks both Kibong and Sisu for their help and hard work. Seongryong meets with the Azure Dragon Guild Master and questions the purpose of their discussion, particularly why the guild leader of Azure Dragon, who didn't participate in the raid party, wants to talk with her. The guild master responds that their participation depends on the Prime Minister's answer, prompting Seongryong to express her willingness to listen. The guild master mentions memory and Seongryong seems puzzled, asking for clarification. The guild master appears frustrated and suggests that if Seongryong continues to be uncooperative, the Azure Dragon won't cooperate either. He reflects on the Prime Minister's serious demeanor and the likelihood of something significant being at stake. The guild master presses Seongryong to reveal who interfered with the memory and whether Prime Minister Gu knows about it. Seongryong suggests that Snacker might have informed the guild master about the memory loss. The guild master insists that it doesn't matter who told him, demanding to know the identity of the person responsible. Seongryong questions the significance of revealing the person's identity, arguing that if everyone's memories are gone, it wouldn't make a difference. This leads to a tense standoff, with both individuals preparing their abilities. Seongryong warns that he won't allow the guild master to act as he pleases if his behavior continues to cause significant problems. The guild master eventually concedes and agrees to stop pursuing the topic of memories. Seongryong emphasizes that there's nothing more to say about the matter. However, the guild master realized that Prime Minister Gu had her memory intact. Seongryong suddenly attacks someone behind the guild master and demands the individual to reveal themselves, revealing it to be Snacker and Dragunov's group. Snacker found that the Prime Minister knows about the identity of the one who erased everyone's memories. The guild master questions whether he was used, and Snacker clarifies that they are not using him, but rather, they share a common goal. The guild master expresses regret for not attacking Snacker earlier. Seongryong, grateful that Snacker and the group have appeared, reveals he was already searching for them. Snacker laughs off Seongryong's arrogance, pointing out that at this moment, he has no one else with him, as everyone has gone to defeat Prasna. Seongryong warns that regardless of Snacker's intentions for coming, he should not expect to leave unharmed. Snacker expresses his curiosity about several things and makes it clear that he doesn't plan on simply returning. Snacker's group follows Seongryong outside, and their battle begins while the raiding party continues their search for Prasna. Bongsun expresses her frustration, feeling that she took action for no reason and being called a real forerunner. Steve teasingly responds that it's all because of her. Bongsun questions why Steve is pretending to be weak and suggests that if he gave her buffs like before, they might be able to defeat Prasna too. The player, Kim Cheeran, approaches and pushes aside Kibong and Sisu. He introduces himself as the master of the Day-Night Guild and invites Bongsun to join their guild, promising excellent treatment after mocking her current group and guild. Kibong intervenes, stopping Cheeran, and tells him to get lost, clearly showing his anger. Cheeran feels fear from Kibong's presence, and Bongsun advises him to leave and promises to visit after the raid. More people approach Bongsun, and Sisu questions Kibong about his intentions in blocking Bongsun's future path. Kibong seems surprised by the suggestion and asks if he's hindering Bongsun's future. Sisu asserts that he is, explaining that by driving away every person who approaches Bongsun, he limits her opportunities. She reminds him that Bongsun has her own life. Kibong defends his actions, questioning how those who can't even be considered beginners can be of any help to Bongsun. Sisu stated that it was just from Kibong's perspective. Kibong agrees that Bongsun will handle things on her own. Seongryong initiates her attack against Snacker, but it proves ineffective due to Snacker's barrier. She tries another attack, but Dragunov steps in to block it. Dragunov, identifying himself as a magic swordsman, challenges Seongryong, suggesting that magic alone is not enough to face him. Seongryong decides to fight as a magic swordsman herself and buffs herself to increase her speed. She charges forward and attacks, but Dragunov still manages to block her strikes. Snacker expresses admiration for Seongryong's impressive skills in both magic and swordsmanship, but regrets having to destroy such an extraordinary person. Seongryong questions whether it's possible for Snacker to do so while she's in South Korea and holds the position of Prime Minister. Snacker responds by asking what Seongryong plans to do, given that there are seemingly no strong individuals left in South Korea to help her now. Snacker employs a powerful ability, and although Seongryong realizes it's too late to avoid, she decides to counterattack. However, her attack passes through Snacker's attack, and she is suddenly sent crashing to the ground. Fortunately, she managed to stop her fall before hitting the ground. Snacker compliments Seongryong for being the first person he's seen recover their magical power so quickly. Seongryong, in turn, thanks him for the compliment and responds with her own praise, stating that he's the first person in years to die by her hands. The guild master intervenes, urging Prime Minister Good to answer a few simple questions and suggesting that there's no need for bloodshed. Seongryong retorts that she is answering now and refers to him as a traitorous bastard. Snacker orders an attack, setting the stage for further conflict. Kibong's group takes a rest in front of a campfire, with Yui and Steve expressing their fatigue. Yui becomes concerned about why Seongryong isn't answering her calls. Bongsun questions Yui's use of a cell phone for communication, as she expected for them to use magic instead. Yui explains that nowadays, cell phones are more effective than magic. Yubin arrives, mentioning that he received a contact from the intelligence agency. He informs the group that they will be facing Prasna the following day, who is currently leading a large-scale army. Yubin reveals that the team chosen to confront Prasna includes himself, the Shield Guild, and everyone present in Kibong's group. Bongsun questions whether it's feasible to confront Prasna with their small group through sniping. Yubin explains that taking on Prasna directly, who is leading an army, introduces too many variables, and it's deemed advantageous to snipe Prasna while other players deal with the army. Bongsun seems skeptical and asks if it's truly possible, to which Yubin confirms. She then addresses Taram as the Shield Guild Master and notices his confidence. Taram asked why she thought they couldn't do it. Bongsun hesitates but eventually mentions that Prasna is an 8-star monster. Taram realizes she doesn't know much about the situation, piquing Bongsun's curiosity. Taram decides to leave but looks at Kibong before departing. Yubin approaches Bongsun and praises her performance earlier, and they shake hands. Meanwhile, Sisu is attempting to calm Kibong down. Yubin becomes surprised when he senses killing intent emanating from somewhere nearby. Yubin questions Taram about what he might be hiding, but Taram suggests that he will find out when the time is right and that there's nothing to explain. He then inquires if there's still no contact with the Prime Minister. Yubin confirms that they can't establish communication even through emergency channels, expressing concern that something might have happened to the Prime Minister. Taram wonders if there's anyone in South Korea who would harm the Prime Minister. Yubin brings up the possibility of Snacker targeting the Prime Minister, recalling what the Magic Tower Master had mentioned about Snacker engaging with the monster and planning something. Yubin questions whether the sniping Prasna raid strategy was a ploy to leave the Prime Minister vulnerable. Taram tries to reassure Yubin, stating that the Prime Minister is not someone who can be easily attacked. Yubin agrees and suggests that, for now, it's better to finish the raid quickly. The Tower Master encounters a white fox in the mountains and requests the fox to lead her to someone. The fox guides her deeper into the mountains, and eventually, the Tower Master realizes that the fox is the one she is looking for. She greets the fox as a divine being, and the fox questions how she knew. The Tower Master responds that she knows more than she thought. The white fox then transforms into its human form, revealing itself as Kang Hui. The Tower Master introduces herself as Song Ilian, the current Magic Tower Master, and Kang Hui greets her in return. He asks why the Magic Tower Master sought him out, wondering if there's a matter concerning the Magic Tower that led her to meet the mountain's divine being. Ilian explains that she has come to request help because the lower realm is in chaos. Kang Hui expresses hesitation, mentioning that divine beings traditionally do not intervene in the affairs of the lower realm. However, he suddenly remembers something that causes him intense pain in his head. Ilian offers to heal Kang Hui's pain using magic, but he declines. Kang Hui is puzzled as to why thinking about the lower realm is causing him such a headache. Ilian pleads with Kang Hui to consider helping, and he eventually agrees, deciding to go to the lower realm to investigate why he's experiencing such discomfort. He believes that he must have left something important there. Ilian expresses her gratitude, calling him a divine being, but Kang Hui insists she call him by his name, Kang Hui. The scouts inform the raiding party that Prasna and his army are just ahead of them. Yubin addresses the party and outlines the plan, with multinational players tasked with defeating the army and opening up a new passage. The others in the party assure him that they will do their best to assist. The monster army and the raiding party face off, with Kibong's group preparing to launch their attack on Prasna. Like and subscribe if you want me to continue the next chapters, and thank you for watching.